Chapter 2048. The opening song of the national finals was still Tang Guo's piano piece. Zhang Yandong looked at the person on the stage in a daze. He had never seen this side of her before. The stirring melody was constantly played by her. Zhang Yandong's heart was always calm. He was even not used to it. In his impression, Tang Guo was always running behind him. When had he ever seen her shine like this? Even without that pair of eyes, everyone's gaze still fell on her. For a moment, Zhang Yandong did not feel good. Especially when the song ended. Lin Xian, who was wearing the team uniform, still held a beautiful and bright rose as usual. He went up to her and held her hand. Then he placed the rose in her other hand. "Brother Xian, do your best. You will definitely win." Tang Guo also wore an earpiece. Everyone could clearly hear her encouraging words to Lin Xian. Then, Zhang Yandong received many strange gazes. Zhang Yandong felt these gazes and understood what the other party was thinking. That's right, they were probably wondering why Tang Guo didn't play the piano during his competition when they were engaged in a fiancé relationship. She did not say encouraging words to him on the stage. He did not know that Tang Guo could play the piano. Zhang Yandong tried to calm himself down. At the moment, he was impatient. It would not be good for the upcoming competition. Tang Guo had already been led down by Lin Xian. She was even led directly to their team. The entire team was talking and laughing with her. Lu Hong sighed. What a difference. Why did Zhang Yandong break off the engagement with her? Manager Li saw this scene and could not help but ask Lu Hong. Today was the national finals. There would be several entertainment programs at the beginning. Not only would there be programs at the beginning, there would also be programs at the end. They were all programs with this game as the theme. Lu Hong did not know what to say. He could only tell the truth. I don't know either. This girl plays the piano very well. Why didn't I think of such a thing before? Manager Li really wanted to scold in his heart. The people under his club were really useless. This was such a good thing to hype up. Zhang Yandong was also a stupid pig. What was wrong with this girl? It was said that his eyes and hands were injured because of Zhang Yandong. Fuck, what a good persona. The girl was injured for the sake of her lover, but she still did not give up on her dream. She was willing to use her music to liven things up for her lover, and she stood on this stage again. The boy promised to take care of her forever. Knowing her dream, he chose to use this method to let her stand on the stage again. If this was known to the world, they would be an immortal couple, a talented man and a beautiful woman. What a bunch of idiots. Manager Li was trembling with anger. Why did he have to provoke that Xiao Lian? What a bunch of good-for-nothings. While he was abroad, they actually came up with a fake CP. Lu Hong silently felt the cold air around Manager Li. He thought in his heart, if Manager Li had been in the country before, there would not have been so many problems. Manager Li watched as Tang Guo was invited to sit at the side. Lin Xian's team members hurriedly gave her something. Why didn't Zhang Yandong bring her to the club to play in the past? The more Manager Li thought about it, the angrier he became. If he brought her here often, I would have thought of this long ago. Lu Hong shrunk his neck. Zhang Yandong did not like her. He probably saw her as a burden in his heart. How could he bring her here? Baijio, Noo, Nob, O1C, Quickwear, supporting female lead, calm down. Peak. Chapter 2049. Manager Li, take a look at this. Actually, the reason why she is standing here today is because there is someone who is willing to help her. Lu Hong felt that if he didn't say anything on behalf of Tang Guo, he would really die of guilt. Looking at how well Tang Guo was doing now, he felt that Zhang Yandong had treated her badly in the past. He was only telling the truth to Manager Li. He didn't want Manager Li to bring trouble to him if anything happened. Manager Li wasn't someone who couldn't differentiate between right and wrong. He was someone who could clearly differentiate between right and wrong. However, in the face of benefits, he would turn a blind eye. If he could get someone to create some hype, the other party wouldn't be willing. Of course, he didn't think that Manager Li would be so stupid as to offend the Lin family. However, he still had to explain clearly to the other party why Tang Guo had changed. He didn't want the other party to be fooled by Zhang Yandong's persona. At this moment, he had already decided to resign after this competition. He had entered this industry for his original intentions. He had almost forgotten his original intentions. Perhaps he had climbed too high in the past few years. Therefore, he decided to give up everything and work for a small team or a small club. He wanted to get in touch with a group of young people who had just entered the industry and were passionate about esports. Without the halo of Jiang Yandong's name, he might be able to live a better life. He wouldn't have to do so many things that would make him feel guilty just to stay in this small place. He was just a person who loved esports. He couldn't be like Manager Li, whose original intentions were profits. He could make any concessions and compromises for profits. All in all, he didn't fit in here. Manager Li held his phone and kept scrolling. These were all posts on the internet. It was an article titled, Lin Xian's Girlfriend Pampering Style. This was compiled by the netizens. In any case, it was all about what they saw and knew. Manager Li was originally burning with anger. After reading this article, he was fed a stomach full of dog food. He looked at the innocent Lu Hong and said with a cold face, "This Jiang Yandong really isn't wronged." He looked at the members of both sides and said, "Today, Jiang Yandong is going to lose. It's not an injustice." Lu Hong was shocked. He never thought that Manager Li would say such a thing. Jiang Yandong would lose? Would Jiang Yandong lose? Would the undefeated legend be defeated today? Manager Li didn't say anything. He turned around and left, muttering, "It's better for this club to take in more fresh blood. Young people, be more energetic and have more competition. This is the future of this profession. Only then would they be able to make more money." How could one Jiang Yandong do it? If something were to happen to Jiang Yandong today, he would basically be crippled. No. What he needed to do now was to look for those unorthodox gamers and recruit them at a high price. It would be best if he could coax them into signing a contract to sell themselves. When Lu Hong heard this, he began to figure out what was going on. What Manager Li meant was that he needed to find some fresh blood to replace Jiang Yandong's position. Thinking about it, the esports industry was such a young profession. Jiang Yandong was already 20 years old. He had less than 2 years left. Tangwa didn't know that Manager Li already had a lot of ideas. Now, Lin Xian was officially on stage. "Brother Xian, if you win this round, I'll give you a kiss when you come back." Peek. Chapter 2050. Lin Xian's eyes lit up when he heard that. The other teammates thought, "You can do that?" Then, when the competition started, the audience present and those watching the live broadcast realized that Lin Xian was very aggressive today. He had beaten Jiang Yandong until he was forced to retreat. This was a little unusual. Jiang Yandong already knew some of Lin Xian's tactics. They weren't this aggressive. He had discussed with his teammates how to break Lin Xian's game. He had not expected the other party to be so aggressive. Within a few minutes, they were in a disadvantageous position. In the end, Lin Xian won. The camera captured Lin Xian's excited eyes and his ears were a little red. This was different from before. Lin Xian had won so many matches before, but he had never shown such an expression. Then, the host couldn't help but interview him and ask if he had beaten Jiang Yandong. He was especially excited. Lin Xian said, "I'm quite happy to win the competition. But just now, Xiaogua said that if I win this match, she will kiss me." Then, he rejected the interview and hurried to Tangwa's seat, looking like he was going to receive his reward. Host. Audience. Jiang Yandong's heart sank. Before he could recover from his defeat, he saw Lin Xian run to Tangwa. Tangwa seemed to be a woman of her word. She hooked her arm around Lin Xian's neck and kissed his forehead. The host followed and heard Tangwa say, "If I win the second match, I will kiss you twice." Host. She doesn't believe that a kiss can win the competition. Jiang Yandong's heart was cold. He didn't know what to feel. That was his ex-fiancée. Now, in order to encourage Lin Xian, she actually said that if he won the competition, he could kiss her. Although he didn't hear what she said, it was probably similar to the previous match. Impossible. He had been careless in the previous match. Lin Xian could forget about winning the next match. Little did he know that he was already anxious. He was different from his usual calmness. He could no longer accurately judge how strong his opponent was. Sure enough, the audience realized that both sides had changed their strategies in the second match. Jiang Yandong's fans were a little worried when they saw Jiang Yandong's slightly impatient behavior. On the other hand, Lin Xian was not as impatient as he had been in the previous match. On the contrary, he was not anxious at all. However, if you thought that he had not done anything, you would find that Zhang Yandong was at a disadvantage again. Everyone quieted down. They had never encountered such a situation before. After all, in their hearts, no matter how powerful Lin Xian was, he could not compare to Zhang Yandong. After all, Zhang Yandong was an invincible legend. Do you know what Tang Guo and Lin Xian were talking about? The host took the opportunity to walk around the audience and reveal a secret to them. After all, when the time came, these might be collected and broadcasted on TV. How could they miss out on such a wonderful scene? Everyone was speechless when they heard that Tang Guo had said that she would kiss Lin Xian twice in the second round. How could a competition be like this? This match lasted for 20 minutes. In today's fast-paced competition, 20 minutes was already very long. This was also because both sides were very strong. When the audience saw Zhang Yandong's crystal explode, they all stood up in silence. The legend of a sure loss was finally broken. They all looked in Lin Xian's direction. They saw him hurriedly running to Tang Guo's position after greeting Zhang Yandong's people. So impatient? Baijio, Noo, Nob, O1C, Quick-Wear, supporting female lead, calm down. The peak. Chapter 2051. Then they watched as Tang Guo cupped his face and kissed him twice. The originally solemn atmosphere was instantly broken. The host quickly ran over to Lin Xian to interview him. He asked him how he felt and how he felt after winning. He even asked him if he had predicted that he would win today. Lin Xian, I'm happy. I predicted it. The host then asked him if he had anything else to say. Lin Xian, I hope that Xiao Guo can continue to use this method to encourage me in the following individual competitions. The host. After these words were heard by the audience, they didn't know what to do. Their expressions kept changing. It turned out that Lin Xian's image in their hearts had collapsed. They hadn't expected Lin Xian to be such a person. Naturally, in the following individual competitions, it was as if Lin Xian was the only one present. Zhang Yandong's momentum was gone. Even if he had good skills, he was no match for Lin Xian in this situation. But Tang Guo believed that even if Zhang Yandong was in good condition, he wouldn't be able to win against Lin Xian. This time, Lin Xian's team had won first place. They could finally participate in the international competition. The entire team was overjoyed. The Lin Corporation also hadn't expected that their children would achieve such an achievement. They were so happy that they had even fulfilled their initial promise. Then, all the stores under the Lin Corporation had a discount. They even wrote the reason for the discount. It was to celebrate their children's victory in the national competition. If they didn't have anything to repay them, they would give everyone a discount. Wasn't it just a discount? They didn't rely on this to make money. Now, the citizens knew that the sons of the Lin Corporation had won first place. The elders were so happy that they wanted to repay the citizens. Such a grand occasion had never happened before. Then, all the citizens, including the aunties who woke up early every day to buy groceries, were thinking about how they hoped that these outstanding young men would win again in the next competition. This time, the international competition wasn't held in their home country. In less than 2 days, Tang Guo followed Lin Xian and the rest to go abroad to adapt. And Zhang Yandong hadn't recovered from his defeat when he heard the news that Xiao Lian and Wen Yunyang were injured. Previously, when Wen Yunyang didn't go to the mall, he asked around. Everyone told him that something had happened to Wen Yunyang's family, and he had no choice but to come back. Only now did he understand what an accident meant. It was basically Xiao Lian being kidnapped. After Wen Yunyang found out, he went to save Xiao Lian and lost himself. Now that one of his legs was crippled, he could only be a cripple for the rest of his life. He looked at Wen Yunyang, whose face was pale and who had lost a lot of weight. For a moment, he felt complicated. It was no wonder that Xiao Lian had been taking care of Wen Yunyang. He was just angry. Why didn't the club tell him that something had happened to Xiao Lian? Everyone told him that it was Manager Li who had blocked the news, fearing that it would affect his competition. Zhang Yandong did not accept this reason. He felt that no matter what, such a serious matter should be notified to him. Manager Li simply couldn't stand Zhang Yandong anymore. Now that the legend of invincibility was gone, Zhang Yandong's wings had hardened. In that situation, even if he told the other party, what could Zhang Yandong do? Would he be like Wen Yunyang, rushing over to save people and turning himself into a cripple? Shouldn't this kind of a legal matter be solved by directly calling the police? Rushing over to seek death, he was simply a stupid pig. Manager Lee didn't ask the other party if he didn't want to work anymore. Although he was angry at Zhang Yandong, he also remembered that the other party had won glory for the club. His strength was not bad, so he didn't want to fall out with him. He didn't expect that Zhang Yandong would be the first to shed all pretense of cordiality. You don't want to work anymore? Yes, you can hang me out. I don't want to stay here. There's no point in staying in this place that doesn't have any human feelings. Manager Lee took a deep breath and resisted the urge to scold him. All right. Peek. Chapter 2052. Manager Lee was a man of his word. The next day, he put up Zhang Yandong's name. Although he had lost a match, Zhang Yandong's strength and reputation were still there. When he was put up, all the clubs were shocked. Zhang Yandong, no way? After the confirmation, the other clubs were discussing how to recruit Zhang Yandong to their side. In the esports world, winning and losing were common. This time, they all saw clearly that Lin Xian's team's coordination was really good. It was practically perfect, and their fighting skills had improved a lot. In addition, Tang Gua had used her beauty to make Lin Xian fight. Zhang Yandong's loss was nothing. He was still young, and there was still a chance. Therefore, in less than 2 days, Zhang Yandong was signed by another team. In less than 2 days, Manager Lee received Lu Hong's resignation. At that time, Manager Lee was smiling as he brought in a few young youths. He even said to them, "Our club is still capable. As long as you are willing to work hard, it is not impossible for you to be better than Zhang Yandong in the future." Because of the previous failures, Manager Lee decided to talk to those youths himself and coax them to sign with the club. In the early stages, he had to keep an eye on them. The people he had chosen should not be wrong, right? Not only that, he also planned to change the management team of the club and the people in the marketing team. These idiots were really too stupid. They actually used the entertainment industry's method of promoting a couple with anyone they saw. What a fucking couple. To promote a couple with Zhang Yandong, they had to be someone like Tang Gua or someone who could stand at the same height as him. To promote a newcomer to the industry with him, wouldn't they be promoting him to the ground? They didn't know shit, and they had to learn that. Since that was the case, why not just recruit a team from the entertainment industry? Manager Lee was thinking when he heard that Lu Hong wanted to resign. He looked at him and said, "Coach Lu, think about it more. I still believe in your ability." Manager Lee was a little reluctant to let Lu Hong go. He pondered for a moment and knew what Lu Hong was thinking. "Coach Lu, what do you think of these young people I found?" Lu Hong asked them about their situation and found out that they were all from the district ahead. They were all 15 or 16 years old youths. Previously, he had learned that they were all passers-by with dreams of esports. Not bad. I was fortunate enough to watch a video of their summit match. Coach Lu, I know that you have always been interested in esports. But where there are people, there will be disputes. No matter where you go, it will be the same. Manager Lee patted Lu Hong and whispered, "You might as well stay with me. Let's not talk about what happened before. Aren't you interested in those young people? It doesn't matter where you teach. What kind of results you teach. Isn't it all up to you? Other than management matters, you still have to deal with the strategic issues. I've never interfered, right? Go back and think about it. Once you leave this place, you won't have so much freedom." Zhang Yandong left, Xiao Lian was fired by me, when Yunyang also left, and I took over the management team. Coach Lu, I recognize your ability. It's up to you whether you want to stay or not. After Manager Lee finished speaking, he placed the resignation letter in Lu Hong's hands and patted him on the shoulder. I already had a hunch that we would lose this competition. It's normal to lose. I'm not disappointed at all. This is also a wake-up call for us. There's no such thing as an undefeated legend. It's just a gimmick. Go back and think about it. Peek. Chapter 2053. In the end, Lu Hong didn't leave. He stayed behind to train the youngsters. He realized that Manager Lee was a man of his word. The previous teams had all been replaced by him. This time, the people who came over seemed to be much more professional. Every time something happened, he would react very quickly. Lu Hong looked at the energetic youngsters in front of him and felt a little more confident. This time, not only did he have to train them how to play the game, but he also had to remind them how to be human. He didn't want to see another Jiang Yandong. When Lu Hong was training the youngsters in the club, he heard that Lin Xian had led the entire team to win the championship in the international competition. He watched the live broadcast. The opening song was still Tang Guo's performance. Every time they won, Lin Xian would ask for a reward in front of her. The reward was a kiss. TSK, the world is degenerating day by day. Youngsters these days are really unscrupulous in order to win. Hearing Manager Li's words, Lu Hong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had always thought that people like Manager Li reeked of money, were unreasonable, and would do anything for money. Now he understood that it wasn't like that. Although Manager Li loved to earn money, he wouldn't do things that were devoid of conscience. He wouldn't treat his team members badly either. As long as they were obedient and trained well, he would give them equal opportunities. As for outstanding people, resources should be given to them. Manager Li said to him, "If everyone is equal, is it fair to those who are more talented? Of course, resources should be used to nurture those who are more talented. That's their value. If they're mediocre and don't work hard, who's to blame? This isn't a charity place. You're doing it for your dreams. I'm doing it for money. There's no conflict. If you're not suitable for this place, then it's best to change careers as soon as possible." He thought about it carefully. It was like that. On the day they won the international competition, Lin Xian proposed to Tang Guo. Of course, she agreed. The two of them stood on the stage hand in hand and were watched by the audience all over the world. After Jiang Yandong was signed by another team, he was still involved with Xiao Lian. Xiao Lian also felt very guilty towards Wen Yunyang. She was hesitant and didn't know what to do. Then, when Wen Yunyang went abroad, he didn't inform her. He only sent her a message and called her. "It's over." Wen Yunyang's cold voice came through the phone. "You don't have to thank me, and don't think that I'm doing this for your sake. I'm not that selfless. I just want to find a quiet place. I don't want to get involved because of your relationship." "Wen Yunyang, what I said is true. You didn't like it, but you liked my love and gentleness for you." She wouldn't hesitate because of Jiang Yandong. Instead, she would marry me directly. "You're not with Jiang Yandong because you feel guilty. I'm crippled because of you. Even now, I still have to be the catalyst for your relationship. You two just let me go. I'll leave you too, okay?" After hanging up, Xiao Lian couldn't contact Wen Yunyang anymore. Even Jiang Yandong couldn't. The two of them hugged each other and talked to each other for a while before they got together. One day, when Jiang Yandong went to the competition, Old Man Zhao's sentence came out. Even though Xiao Lian handed in a lot of things, Old Man Zhao only escaped the death penalty and was sentenced to life imprisonment. After all, the things he stole were too many and involved a lot of things. Xiao Lian suddenly thought of her grandfather. She felt very helpless and instantly thought of Jiang Yandong. Baijio, Noo, Nob, O1C. Quick wear. Supporting female lead, calm down. Peak. Chapter 2054. At that time, she didn't think too much and forgot that Jiang Yandong was playing that day, so she called him. In this team, they didn't keep their phones during matches. At that time, Jiang Yandong had just finished a match. When he received the call and heard the crying, he didn't care about anything else and ran away. As expected, the whole team was furious. When the two of them remembered, it was too late. Jiang Yandong paid the penalty and was chased away by the club. Xiao Lian felt guilty. Jiang Yandong thought that someone would want him since he was so good, but no one was willing to sign him. There were rumors online that Jiang Yandong, the legend of his generation, was ruined by Xiao Lian. Jiang Yandong eventually became a broadcaster. He had a lot of fans and was skilled. Plus, he was good-looking and had a decent income. Xiao Lian was sad for a long time when Old Man Zhao was sentenced to life imprisonment. She had been plotting how to break him out of prison. The two of them lived together. Xiao Lian didn't do anything and had to rely on Jiang Yandong for everything. Over time, the two of them hated each other. This time, during a live stream, he had gotten into a big fight. It really made people eat a big melon. Jiang Yandong was unruly and a little arrogant. He didn't respond to his fans and still had his old arrogance. Over time, his popularity also dwindled. But his family didn't lack money and he wasn't at his wits' end. It was just that he didn't feel good about it. When Jiang Yandong's parents came back to attend Tanggua's wedding, Xiao Lian went with Jiang Yandong. That day, another incident happened. Madame Chen recognized Xiao Lian as the thief and couldn't help but say it softly. Jiang Yandong's parents were innocent people. When they heard it, they went to investigate. When they came back, they objected to the two of them being together. Xiao Lian thought that they were looking down on her and argued with Jiang Yandong. When Jiang Yandong heard her say bad things about his parents, the two of them got into a fight. In the end they broke up. Xiao Lian, who was living on the streets, met Tong Hui, who kindly took her home. For a moment, Xiao Lian was so grateful to Tong Hui that she forgot about the past. This time, Jiang Yandong wasn't around, and Tong Hui wasn't on guard either. Not only did he succeed, but he also took a lot of photos. However, he had underestimated Xiao Lian. She was slightly different from the other girls. When her body recovered its strength, she killed him directly and fled. She fled to the depths of the mountains and forests and hid there for several years, but she did not stop practicing martial arts. Over the years, she had become a wanted criminal. As long as she hid deep in the mountains and forests, she would never be caught. However, she still wanted to save old man Xiao. However, many years had passed and the city had changed too quickly. She had no choice but to sneak into Jiang Yandong's house, but she was discovered again. Jiang Yandong looked at her pitifully and thought of all the things that had happened in the past. He had taken her in and not reported her. He had even given her a fake identity and given her money. He warned her not to cause any more trouble. As for the villa next to the Jiang family's house, it had already been sold. The Jiang family and family Tang had less and less contact. Jiang Yandong had never thought that Xiao Lian would break out of prison and get caught. Not only that, the police even came to his door and accused him of harboring a murderer. They wanted to take him back as well. In the end, Xiao Lian went to prison and Jiang Yandong was sentenced to a few years. Host, was the original owner's car accident really an accident? The system's voice sounded. It had carefully analyzed the plot of this world over the years and found a loophole. Tanggua said, "No, how could it be an accident? Who was it?" Tong Hui. The system suddenly understood. According to the plot it had analyzed, it made sense. Tong Hui was indeed a crazy person. He was the kind that would never know pain if he did not get hurt. 10 years later, with Lin Xian and the Lin family's sponsorship of the medical field, the country's medical field continued to expand. Finally, the medical equipment and medicine could be used to operate on Tanggua. After Tanggua's eyes recovered, Lin Xian hugged her waist and rested his chin on her forehead. "Xiao Gua, do you want to participate in the competition? Why are you bringing this up? In a few years, I'll be 40. It's not too late. There are people who only become masters at 80. Xiao Gua, if you want to, you can go. I like to see you standing on the stage and shining." Tanggua giggled. "Coach Lin, you're already so old. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at for saying such things?" "No, everyone is used to it." "Okay, but you have to come with me. I've been taken care of by you all these years. I'm already a giant baby. I don't know how to put on makeup, comb my hair, or dress up. Coach Lin, if I become a cripple, you have to take responsibility. Take responsibility. Take responsibility. I'll take responsibility for the rest of my life." Peak. Chapter 2055. Senior Tang, what's wrong? Hearing this voice, Tanggua immediately came back to her senses. She looked up and saw an ordinary-looking boy looking at her. The other party was wearing a simple t-shirt, jeans, and sneakers. It was the simplest outfit for a man at the moment. She glanced at the suitcase in his hand and then looked around. She was surrounded by young men and women who were full of vigor. Most of them were in groups of about 10 to 20 people, pulling their suitcases and following the people in front of them. Looking at the signs around her, she instantly understood that this should be the time for new students to register. This average-looking boy with an extraordinary temperament should be this year's new student. And just now, the other party had called her senior, which meant that she was also a student of this school. However, at this time, she didn't receive the memory, so she didn't know the specific situation. But while she was deep in thought, she felt the boy in front of her scanning her body. Although his gaze was hidden, she still felt it. The other party's eyes swept across her face quickly. She wouldn't miss the surprise and excitement in his eyes. New by Chinese Network. Netpsp. M. Com. Furthermore, the other party was still sizing up her figure. With that fiery gaze, anyone could guess what this person was thinking. It turned out that he was a pervert. Senior Tang. Although Li Fan really wanted to admire beauties, there was a big sun above his head. He had no interest in standing under the sun. He only wanted to settle the school matters as soon as possible and make new friends. As for this beautiful woman in front of him, he would ask for her number first. He was also very surprised to meet such a beautiful senior as soon as he arrived. How could he have known that the woman in front of him had changed? She was no longer the same person. I'm a little dizzy. As soon as Tangwa finished speaking, her face turned pale. It looked like she was really going to faint. Li Fan also didn't expect that it would be such a situation. Thinking that the weather was so hot, he must have received many new students today. It would be strange if he didn't faint from the heat. Of course, he wouldn't let go of such a good opportunity to perform. He quickly went over to support Tangwa. Tangwa took 2 steps back. Junior, I might need to rest for a while. It's okay. Your health is more important. Where's the infirmary? I'll send you there. I want to go to the bathroom first. Just now, Tangwa had already found the location of the washroom. God was on her side. It was not far from here. Therefore, she pointed into the distance and said, I'll go over first. Why don't you wait for a while and rinse yourself with cold water? You'll be fine soon. It was just too hot just now. Li Fan expressed his worry and wanted to send her over. Tangwa didn't refuse. As long as that perverted pig's foot didn't reach out, everything was fine. After entering the washroom, Tangwa chose a cubicle. Tungzi received the memory. That Li Fan gave her a very bad impression. His naked gaze was always scanning her body, which made her feel very uncomfortable. It was better to receive the memories as soon as possible and understand this world clearly. All right, Madam Host, I've seen the storyline of this world just now. You should be prepared for it. Destroy the 3 views? Tangwa was puzzled. She wanted to see how he would destroy her worldview. New by Chinese Network. Netpsp. M. Com. After she finished reading, she felt terrible. Just as the system said, the storyline of this small world really destroyed her worldview. All of this started from an ordinary boy called Li Fan. That's right, Li Fan was the male lead of this world. Want to chat with more like-minded people about cross quickly? Female supporting character, calm down. Talk about life. Find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2056. Li Fan was born in an ordinary family, and his parents were only ordinary employees of a company. Although the salary was not high, it was enough for the family to eat and drink. As long as there was no serious illness or pain, this family was the most ordinary in the world. The only thing that worried them was Li Fan. Li Fan had been very introverted since he was young. From childhood to high school, his grades were ordinary in class. He was not good with words and was somewhat timid in front of others. His personality was actually related to the couple. Generally, families would feed their children and send them to study. They never paid attention to psychological problems. They thought that giving them food and money to study was their duty. A boy with an ordinary appearance and a thin body was the most bullied in school. His living expenses every week, other than the money that was charged into his meal card, were all threatened to pay protection fees. Li Fan was just like his name, really ordinary. His grades were not good. His height and appearance were ordinary. He was obviously not popular with girls. Even if he had a crush on someone in his heart, he did not dare to confess. If nothing unexpected happened, he should have spent his high school years being bullied by bullies and ridiculed by others. Perhaps he would have been admitted to a very ordinary university, finished the university step by step, and went to work in an ordinary company. In the end, he would go on a blind date with a very ordinary woman like him, marry her, give birth to an ordinary child, and the child would continue his life. But at the end of the 2nd semester of high school, something happened during the summer vacation. The supplementary classes were requested by the class, and the parents did not have any objections. Naturally, Li Fan could not escape. However, during the supplementary classes, he could not live in school and had to go home every day. One day, when he returned home from the supplementary class, he heard a cry for help. He carefully went over to take a look and realized that it was those hooligans who were dragging their class beauty. The class beauty was actually also his crush. Looking at the other party's desperate look, he did not know where the courage came from. He rushed over and pulled her back. Of course, the result was that he was beaten up. The class beauty was smart and called the police during that time. Those people secretly hated him and beat Li Fan even more ruthlessly. When it was about time, those people quickly fled. Li Fan lay on the ground on the verge of death, and it was at this time that his fortuitous encounter came. He had a piece of safety jade that Mother Li gave him. It was actually just a few dozen pieces of good stuff. He asked for it in the temple and said that it had been consecrated. Li Fan listened to everything his parents said, so he had always worn this piece of safety jade on his body. Coincidentally, those people who were beaten up until they vomited blood, and the blood dripped onto the jade, starting Li Fan's legendary life. When Li Fan was discharged from the hospital, his entire style changed. He became much better looking, taller, more outgoing, and even his skills were not bad. Those bullies who used to bully him had all become his underlings. Wu Shui, of course. Anyone who offended him would not have a good ending. Chapter 2057. Although countless women were willing to be with Li Fan, they didn't even care about fame and fortune. But in this world, there were always people who were unwilling. The original owner was one of the few who was unwilling to be with Li Fan. Before the original owner went to university, she was already engaged and had a fiancé named Zhang Xing. Family Tang and Zhang family were family friends. The two of them knew each other since they were young. As for whether they had feelings for each other, they might have some, but it wasn't strong. The original owner didn't hate Zhang Xing. Zhang Xing's character was also passable. He was a gentleman. As for why she chose to be engaged to Zhang Xing in the end, there were 3 reasons. Firstly, they had to know each other's background and the relationship between the two clans existed. Second, in this circle, there were very few young people she was familiar with who didn't look for women outside. They all changed girlfriends very diligently. On the other hand, this Zhang Xing, since young, they had been in the same school. He was rarely unfaithful and half-hearted. This was very rare. He was also good to the original owner. Third, compared to other suitors, she could feel that Zhang Xing really liked her. Since she didn't have anyone she liked and had a good impression of Zhang Xing, his character was good, then getting engaged was also a good choice. In this world, even if they were married, they could still be separated in the future if they weren't suitable. It was better to give it a try. With this kind of character, when meeting someone like Li Fan, she naturally wouldn't bow down like other women. When Li Fan saw the original owner for a day, he was shocked. Later on, he appeared in front of her, but the original owner's character was indifferent. She didn't like him and kept a distance from him. This made Li Fan very upset. Later on, when he found out that the original owner had a fiancé, he felt even more unlucky. Once, when Li Fan was pestering the original owner, the fiancé, Zhang Xing, happened to bump into him. He mistakenly thought that the original owner had cuckolded him. At that time, Li Fan also tried his best to explain, but the more he explained, the worse it became. He understood men too well. He knew what to say to provoke Zhang Xing and make him angrier. Sure enough, Zhang Xing left with a straight face. Because of Zhang Xing's actions, Li Fan would make the original owner sad. Seeing the other party's true colors, he would break off the engagement with the other party and be with him. Unexpectedly, the original owner said to him with a cold face, "Even if I don't be with Zhang Xing, I won't be with you." Everything you said just now infuriated Zhang Xing. You know very well what you're thinking. I didn't expose you before because I wanted to keep a distance so that you could understand. I didn't expect you to push your luck. At that time, one could imagine how angry Li Fan was. This was the first time a woman had unhesitatingly dissected his heart and left him no face at all. New by Chinese Network. Netpsp. Mobile phone :/m. After that, the original owner left and told him not to waste his time because it was impossible between them. It wasn't that she didn't see Li Fan's ability. He had just entered university for less than a year, and he had already opened a company in a bustling manner. He had even befriended quite a few big shots of the upper class. But did she care about these things? She had always been an indifferent person. She only agreed to get engaged with Zhang Xing because she did not want to put her family in a difficult position. She could be with anyone as long as she thought he was qualified. Li Fan was flirting with those women every day. Long ago, she had already asked someone to investigate. How could she be interested in such trash? Of course, she had also investigated the changes in Li Fan's high school, but she didn't know the reason at all. This was also why she had always turned a blind eye to it. She was afraid that if she really angered the other party, it would cause trouble for her family. She had never thought that Li Fan was so narrow-minded. Want to chat with more like-minded people about quick transmigration? Female supporting character, calm down. Talk about life, find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2058. Li Fan hated the original owner, but the original owner was the woman he wanted, so he didn't want to do anything to her for the time being. Therefore, he put pressure on the Zhang family. For the sake of his family, Zhang Xing took the initiative to break off the engagement with the Tang family. At the same time, he said that he wanted to withdraw his investment in a big project that they had invested in together. For this project, the Tang family had invested more than half of their assets. If they dared to do this, wouldn't it mean that the two of them were engaged and would be in-laws in the future? In order to protect themselves, the Zhangs acted willfully, causing the family Tang to face a crisis. If they couldn't keep up with the cash flow, they would face all kinds of problems. At this time, the original owner's close friends told her that Li Fan was very powerful. As long as she went to find Li Fan, he would definitely be able to help her. As for the conditions, she would definitely be willing to become Li Fan's woman. Hearing the advice of the people around her, the body's original owner instantly understood that Li Fan had also taken in her close friends. As soon as she thought of this, she felt disgusted. In fact, there were many people in the school who wanted to become Li Fan's woman. The original owner also didn't understand why these women were like crazy. Li Fan is so disgusting, sharing a man with so many women, don't you feel disgusted? Later on, Li Fan's various women came to look for her. In any case, they were all trying to persuade her to agree. As long as she followed Li Fan, her family would not be at a disadvantage, and it would be even better than before. New by Chinese Network. Netpsp. M. Kamshi still didn't agree. Later on, the shareholders of Tangkor and the family, other than her parents, all tried to persuade her to agree. She cast her gaze on her parents. At that time, her heart was cold and she felt powerless. At that time, she thought that as long as her parents persuaded her to agree, she would agree. However, after the Tang family's crisis was resolved, she would go and die. Once she died, everything would be over. Let her serve Li Fan, dream on in her next life. If he agreed to resolve Tangkor's crisis, then he would be returning the favor of them raising him. She never thought that her parents would be even angrier than she was and take her away from Tangkor. The family of three moved into a small house. As for what would happen to Tangkor, her mother had said at the time, let them do whatever they want. After all, they weren't the ones selling their daughter, so of course they wouldn't feel bad. Even if it's a little bitter and poor, it's still better than selling my daughter. When Li Fan heard this news, he angrily vented all his anger on Tang Corporation. Not long after, Tang Corporation went bankrupt. They didn't know if it was a matter of face, but Li Fan didn't come to find trouble with them. But from time to time, they would bump into each other. The other party always had a high and mighty look on his face, hugging his women left and right. That look seemed to be asking her if she regretted it. She regretted not following him. A few decades later, Li Fan and his women were still young and beautiful. The original owner had never married and was already old. Li Fan saw that she did not have the slightest bit of remorse and lost his patience. The senior sister that stunned him back then had already become an old woman and was about to be buried. Since then, the original owner had never seen Li Fan again. She didn't know what happened to Li Fan after that. After reading these memories, Tangwa admired the original owner of this body for being an ordinary girl, and also had a good impression of the family Tang couple. To give up everything and not be willing to let his daughter suffer. This kind of courage was not something an ordinary person could have. Xin Shi. 1 Chinese Network. Calmly Fan thought that the original owner was not living well. But in fact, other than not living a luxurious life, she was living quite well. Her only regret was that her parents had to accompany her through hardships. Although her feelings were indifferent, her heart was not made of iron. She remembered the people who were good to her. She wanted to chat with more like-minded people about quick transmigration. Female supporting character, calm down. Talk about life. Find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2059. Host, do you want to destroy your worldview? The system asked secretly. It already felt that the host was probably sharpening her skills. It just didn't know how the host was going to play this time. Tangua let out a low chuckle. Help me share the fun things in this world with your friends in the group. Let them see this weirdo. Okay. The system's favorite thing to do was to replace Tangua and share the exciting stories in the small world with the friends in the group. Then it told Tangua about the reaction in the group. However, when he entered the group, he found that something was wrong. Originally, there were a total of 12 people in the group, including Tangua, the group leader. But now he found that there was one more person in the group. He quickly looked at the list and compared it carefully. Apart from the name Ji Xiaoxi, which had turned gray, there was one more person called Wen Yawei. He didn't have time to share the story and quickly exited the group to tell Tangua the situation. There's one more person? Tangua was surprised. Ever since Tangua took over this interdimensional communication group, she didn't care about anything else. Because the result of her and the system's research was that this group was formed by energy. The research showed that as long as the people in the group didn't die, there would be people chatting and sending red packets to the group. The group would also exist forever. How long could she live? Anyway, she had traveled for so many years, so she wouldn't die anytime soon. The other friends were either in the celestial world, the magic world, or the interstellar world. It was easy for them to live for thousands of years, so they didn't need to worry about the group disappearing. Now that there was one more person, she was a little curious. She quickly entered the group and saw an unfamiliar name. Wan Yawei. She thought about it and realized that she had never heard of it before. But she was a little happy because although she was the group leader and had a lot of power, the only thing she couldn't do was to recruit people. Otherwise, she would have pulled in the people she knew to play with her. Now that there was a new member, it meant that the group would be lively once the right person was recruited. Sure enough, she saw that Zi Yun and the others were asking about the new member. However, they talked for a long time, but the new member didn't seem to have any response. Internet Mobile/M. Netpsp. Netpsp. M. Com Chi Xiao. Maybe the newcomer is shy. Why don't you try sending a red packet? My sister had told me before that as long as there was a red and white, she would know who was lurking around. Tangua. Ziyun. That makes sense. I'll give it to you. Wen Yawei. This name sounds like a girl. What attracted girls was nothing more than beautiful jewelry and dresses, but what attracted girls the most was youth and beauty. Tangua. I have to say, Brother Ziyun is right. She didn't say anything and waited to see what would happen next. Ziyun. Based on my speculation, I don't think he's from a high-level plane. If it was someone from the same field, they would have found this group very quickly and asked about our situation. My guess was that Wan Yawei was from a normal dimension. Mo Yun Tian. Just give me a red packet. Don't be so sentimental. General Billy. That's right, Ziyun. Hurry up with the red packet. If the newcomer runs away, we'll be angry with you. Margaret. Yes, I don't know if the school bell has arrived in the new world. I don't think so. She hasn't greeted us yet. When she comes, we must tell her that there's a newcomer. I want to chat with more like-minded people about. Chapter 2060. This time, Zi Yun did not waste any more words and sent a red packet. It was a special red packet. Inside was the beauty pill that he had just mentioned, the kind that mortals could use. Then the group became quiet, waiting for the newcomer to receive the red packet. Tangua remembered that there was still Li Fan waiting outside. She looked at the time and saw that 10 minutes had passed. She let the system look at the situation in the group and walked out of the bathroom. As soon as she came out, she saw that Li Fan was a little anxious. She maintained the cold and indifferent character of the original owner. After all, She did not want to talk too much with people like Li Fan. The other party's gaze now made her feel even more uncomfortable. Senior Tang, are you okay? I'm fine, let's go. After bringing Li Fan through the process, Tang rejected Li Fan's invitation to eat and exchange contact information, and left. Although he did not get her contact information, Li Fan was not discouraged. He believed that it would not be long before this cold senior became his woman. Tang felt the other party's determined gaze and almost vomited. How shameless. She used the excuse that she was not feeling well and returned to the dormitory. Today, to welcome the new students, the 4 people in their dormitory came. At present, the other 3 should still be busy. Thinking that 2 of the 3 would become Li Fan's woman, Tang felt a little speechless. As for why only 2 people succeeded, it was because the remaining girl was too ordinary and Li Fan was not interested in her. But that girl had always been secretly in love with Li Fan and did not get married. Hearing this news, Tang quickly entered the group and found that everyone was discussing enthusiastically. Hello everyone, what are you discussing so enthusiastically? Then everyone told her that there was a newcomer, but the newcomer did not speak and left after receiving the red packet, which made them feel very strange. Tang sent everyone a red packet of food as usual, and then she found that the newcomer also received a roast chicken and waited silently. She wanted to see if this newcomer was good or bad. The brothers and sisters in the group were no longer noobs. If it was a good one, everyone would probably take care of it. If it was a bad one, then wait for the other party's name to turn gray. When Yahweh looked at the plate of roast chicken in front of her and the fragrant white pill in her hand and was a little dumbfounded. She thought she was dreaming. She raised her hand with difficulty to rub her eyes. Feeling the pain from her arm and cheek, she finally believed that everything in front of her was not a dream. She had casually clicked on 2 red packets just now and got a pill and a plate of roasted chicken. The aroma of the steaming hot roast chicken wafted into her nose, causing her to salivate. No, she couldn't eat it. She was prepared to starve to death. Thinking of her own experience, she smiled bitterly. A month ago, she was still a famous celebrity. Who knew that an accident during filming would cause the fake fire to turn into real fire, causing 70% of her skin to be burned? With the medical standards of this world, it was impossible for him to recover to his original state. It would be a miracle if he could keep his life. After finding out about her disfigurement, the businesses all terminated their contracts with her, and the roles that were originally agreed upon were all gone. The company no longer cared about her, and her manager also left her. She might as well not have parents. She had no one to rely on, and it was by chance that she became a superstar. Now that her face was disfigured, her family knew about it and did not even call her. The movie king's fiancé had also broken off their engagement. Looking at herself in the mirror, she chose to die. It would be easy to cause trouble for the police if she died outside, so she might as well starve to death at home. When Yahweh looked at the roast chicken and swallowed her saliva. It smelled so good. Then she looked at the white pill in her hand. It was also very fragrant. She had been hungry for 2 days and had no strength. She almost couldn't control herself and wanted to eat the roast chicken directly. She didn't know that Tang Gua and the people in the group were waiting for her reaction. What's going on? She didn't say anything after receiving the red packet. Maybe she's just an ordinary person. She can't believe it. Maybe she's still in shock. Let's wait a little longer. Tang Gua was also very patient. She was calculating how to deal with Li Fan while waiting for Wen Yahweh's reaction. Chapter 2061. When Yahweh originally planned to throw the roast chicken into the trash can. After all, she was going to starve to death. However, she could tell that the chef had put in a lot of effort into making the roast chicken. It would be a pity to throw it away. She also had the white pill in her hand. She had gotten these 2 things from the red packet. If she was still a healthy person, she might not be able to wait to find out what was going on. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. However, 70% of her skin was now unrecognizable. Her face in the mirror was covered with burn scars. She could not even lift her arms. Even lifting them slightly would cause her severe pain. At this moment, she was sitting on the chair in front of the dressing table. She leaned against the back of the chair weakly and looked at the reflection in the mirror tiredly. She did not dare to take a closer look. Even she felt scared looking at her own face. The assets under her name had been distributed. After her death, her lawyer would donate them for her. Although she had paid a lot of liquidated damages, it seemed like she had no money. However, she had been in the entertainment industry for so many years. She had to leave herself a way out. After the accident, she became an abandoned person. She no longer had a place in the entertainment industry. Because she was too popular, she had no friends among the female celebrities. No, she used to have friends. However, they were no longer her friends now. As for what exactly happened to that accident, she didn't want to look into it. Even if she used up all her assets, she would not be able to find out anything. Because she was an abandoned person, no one would help her. As for her family, they had come to visit her after the accident. Later, they found out that she had paid a lot of compensation and sold the villa. They also heard that she needed a lot of money for her follow-up treatment. Therefore, those people left on the same day. After that, they did not call her. If it weren't for the fact that she had left a way out for herself and had some jewels and assets in other places, not only would she have been disfigured, but she would also have ended up on the streets. Since no one cared about her, she would donate the rest of her money. Half an hour later, Wan Yawei looked at the plate of roast chicken and could not help it. I'm going to die anyway. It's so delicious. Even if it's poisonous, it's a pity if I don't try it. Wan Yawei thought that she would starve for a few more days after she ate the roast chicken. If she didn't eat it, she wouldn't be able to rest in peace. Therefore, she quickly ate the roast chicken. It was really fast. She hadn't eaten for 2 days. She was really starving. It was even more painful than dieting in order to look good on camera. As he swallowed mouthful after mouthful of roast chicken, the feeling of fullness slowly increased. She originally thought that after not eating for 2 days and eating such greasy food, her stomach would definitely feel uncomfortable, but she didn't. She didn't know who the chef who made the roast chicken was, but she wanted to invite him over to make her last dinner. After eating a roast chicken, Wan Yawei felt full of energy and drank a bottle of mineral water. Finally, she pinched the white pill in her hand. I've already eaten the roasted chicken. What's one more strange pill? With that, she swallowed it. New by Chinese Network. Netpsp. M. Netpsp. Tanghua and the people in the group waited for about half an hour before there was finally some movement in the group. Wan Yawei. Excuse me, what group is this? I just grabbed 2 red envelopes, a plate of roast chicken, and a strange pill. I ate them all. Seeing Wan Yawei appear, everyone in the group, including Tanghua, was very happy. Campus Bell. This is a social group. I'm the leader of this group. I want to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration. Female supporting role, calm down. Talking about life. Looking for confidants, peak. Chapter 2062. Wan Yawei. Hello, group leader. Isn't this a chat group? What kind of group is this? To be honest, the roast chicken you sent me was so delicious that I couldn't help myself. Wan Yawei's words made everyone in the group burst into laughter. This newcomer seemed to be very interesting. The others didn't interrupt and let Tanghua, the group leader, explain for Wan Yawei. Wan Yawei was shocked when Tanghua said that the members of this group came from different realms. She was very excited when she asked if the realms of cultivation, magic, and interstellar were what she imagined. Wan Yawei, I see. I didn't expect such a miracle to happen before I die. Group leader. The roast chicken was so delicious. Do you have any more? What do you need? I can exchange jewelry and gold bars with you. Wan Yawei had already opened the safe. Seeing that Tanghua's name was Campus Bell, she thought it would be better to send some jewelry. She looked at the items in the safe and found some beautiful jewelry and diamonds. Finally, she chose the most beautiful ones and sent them to Tanghua. Wan Yawei. Can you give me another plate of roast chicken? She was going to satisfy her appetite and go on her way. Suddenly, she remembered the delicious pill. She quickly searched the records and found that the name of the pill was Beauty Pill. She didn't care too much and found the person who sent the red packet. Wan Yawei. That pill was also delicious. Ziyun, do you need anything? Although it's not convenient for me to go out, I can order takeout. I'm in the mortal world. I don't know if you've heard of it. Group leader, if the name is what I think it is, then you should have heard of it. If possible, I would like to exchange for 2 more of those fragrant, sweet, and pain-relieving pills. Yes, after taking the pills, she felt that the pain in her body was reduced a lot. She didn't know if the other party was willing to accept such a good thing, so she could only offer her own conditions. In any case, even if he were to die, he wanted to die a comfortable death. She had made so much money, but she didn't really enjoy it. Ziyun. I have a lot of pills. Ziyun didn't know whether to laugh or cry after being praised for how tasty the pill was. However, the other party seemed to want to exchange something with him instead of trying to take advantage of him. Ziyun was in a better mood. Ever since his experience with Ji Xiaoxi, he especially hated people who liked to take advantage of others. Margaret, did you just say you were going to die after eating it? Can you tell me what happened? Qi Xiao. Yes, you're living well. Why do you want to die? Now that you've met us, don't you feel regretful that you haven't met us yet? Mo Yuntian. The little girl should still be very young. If you have any difficulties, tell us and see if we can help. The people in the group expressed their opinions one after another. They were really excited to have a newcomer with a good personality. Previously, they had asked Tanghua and found out that even though she was the group leader, she had no way of pulling people in. It was really a pity. School bell. Why don't you share your story? Since you're able to join the group, it means that this is an opportunity. Wen Yawei thought about it and agreed. She had never heard of anyone who could snatch a plate of roasted chicken from a red packet. Now that she was full, she didn't feel like dying anymore. Since that was the case, she might as well find out more about this group so that she wouldn't have any regrets. Chapter 2063. Wen Yawei. My name is Wen Yawei. I live on an ordinary planet. I used to be a famous actress. Wen Yawei told them about her story. Perhaps it was because she had no one to accompany her. He carefully shared his experience in front of this group of strangers whom he had never met before. The despair in her words made the people in the group silent. Such an experience was too tragic for an ordinary person. When they heard that she planned to starve to death and even hired a lawyer to donate her remaining assets after her death, they understood that she was a very kind girl. If other people heard this, they would at most say some comforting words and sympathize with her. However, the people in this group were all capable people. Her skin was burned, and it was just a matter of a few pills. After hearing this, Tanghua said, Wen Yawei, you don't have to die. Wen Yawei was confused. I don't have to die? It's painful for me to live. I was discharged from the hospital after only 1 month because I didn't want to be tortured by treatment. My face was burned, and there are not many intact parts of my body. I can't go on. Ziyun. Didn't you take a beauty pill before? It should be working now. Look in the mirror and see if there are any changes. Qi Xiao. Yes, look in the mirror and see if there are any changes. Even if Ziyun's pills were for ordinary people, they would still have some effect. Wen Yawei didn't understand, but she also looked in the mirror. She was stunned for a moment. She didn't know if it was her illusion, but she felt that the terrible scars on her face had healed a little. Although it still looked hideous, it was her own face, and she could see any changes clearly. It was indeed better. She was a little excited. When she looked in the group again, she saw the red packet again. She poked it and a bottle of pills appeared in her hand. She didn't open it immediately, but instead, she told them about her situation. Ziyun told her that it was the effect of the pills. He had just sent her another bottle containing dozens of pills. She could take 1 a day to slowly recover. She was just an ordinary person, so she couldn't take pills that were too strong. Too strong would cause her body to explode, and it would also expose her abnormality. Wen Yawei burst into tears. She didn't know what else to say except to thank him. Hearing these comforting words in the group, her hope for life rekindled. Ziyun. It's been a long time since a new member joined the group. We all like new members, so don't think about dying. Piao Miao Fairy. Yeah, the school bell is quite nice. She would give us delicacies from various planes from time to time. That plate of roast chicken was delicious, right? He wouldn't be able to eat it after he died. Tanghua added, heal your injuries first. Don't you want to find out who did this to you? After Tanghua finished speaking, she ignored the situation in the group and exited. She quickly took out her phone and searched for Wen Yawei's name. Sure enough, the next message that popped up was that the former superstar Wen Yawei's face was burned and disfigured. She scrolled down and saw that it was all about Wen Yawei's disfigurement. She clicked on Wen Yawei's homepage and saw a very beautiful and fashionable woman. When Wen Yawei was talking about her experience, she remembered something that was briefly mentioned in the plot. The reason why it could be brushed aside was because Wen Yawei had a little relationship with one of the women of the male lead, Li Fan. Chapter 2064. This woman was called Gan Yingying, and she was also a female celebrity. It was said that before Wen Yawei's accident, the two of them had always been compared. Wen Yawei was gentle and beautiful, while Gan Yingying was delicate and gorgeous. However, in terms of resources and strength, Wen Yawei had always been better. However, the two of them had never been angry because of this. It was said that the two of them were very close friends. Every time Gan Yingying appeared, there would be regrets. If Wen Yawei didn't die, her achievements would definitely not be lower than Gan Yingying's. Gan Yingying would often mention Wen Yawei and shed tears for her good friend many times. In the plot, Wen Yawei starved to death. As she said, after starving to death, she asked a lawyer to donate all her remaining assets. At that time, her family even came to make trouble. However, in the end, they were scolded back by Wen Yawei's fans. Tangwa searched for Wen Yawei's information and couldn't help but laugh. She didn't expect that this new friend of hers would be in her world. After looking at Wen Yawei's information, Tangwa searched for Gan Yingying. At present, she was still a big star, but Li Fan didn't have anything to do with her. However, after a while, that might not be the case. After reading it, there wasn't much noise. Gan Yingying's character was not a pure and innocent girl, but a sexy and seductive one. Then, she found a lot of news in the forum. It seemed that all the resources that belonged to Wen Yawei had fallen on Gan Yingying's head. Gan Yingying seemed to be taking into account their past relationship. She didn't accept it completely and evaded it quite a bit. When she heard Wen Yawei's statement, she seemed to be very lonely and didn't have many friends. If Gan Yingying really had a good relationship with her, how could she let her starve to death? If a good friend had such a big accident, she wouldn't come to see her every day. She would just call her to comfort her and visit her once a week. It seemed that the relationship between the two of them was not as good as imagined. When she looked at the group again, Wen Yawei was already chatting with everyone and was very grateful to them. The people in the group gave her a lot of things, all kinds of strange things. Wen Yawei was a little embarrassed, so she asked everyone what they liked. For women like Piao Miao Fairy and Margaret, it was definitely a good idea to give them dresses and jewelry. But for the others, she was in a dilemma. Tangwa interjected, "Just send some food over. They just like that. Just give them more food and they'll be very happy." "Okay, I'll call the restaurant right away and ask them to send some food over." Now, he didn't want to die. He had a chance to be reborn. Wen Yawei did not want to give up either. Tangwa was right. She also wanted to find out who had harmed her. She was unwilling to die like this. Previously there was no hope. Now that her face could recover, she could still mingle in the entertainment industry, earn money, and establish all kinds of connections. She was not afraid that she would not be able to find out. She prepared all kinds of delicious food for everyone. She also gave Margaret, Piao Miao Fairy, and Tangwa beautiful jewelry, all of which were precious. In this world, each item was worth at least 1 million. Not only that, she also ordered expensive watches and some things that men in this world liked. Without asking, she sent them to Zi Yun and the others in the group. It was just a little bit of food. She felt really bad about it. After spending the money, she could still earn it. It was not a big deal. When Tangwa saw Zi Yun say that he liked watches, she thought for a moment. Zi Yun was holding a sword and wearing a long robe. He looked at his watch and said to his opponent, "It's time. Let's eat before we fight." Peek. Chapter 2065. Tangwa didn't look at the messages in the group anymore. She told the system to keep an eye on it and left the dormitory. Because a few of her roommates had called her and said that today's new students were almost all received and asked her to go out for a meal. The reason why she didn't refuse was because she would meet Li Fan later. At that time, Li Fan would go out for a meal with his roommates. In the plot, they sat very far away and there was a wall between them. Li Fan was busy making new friends and didn't notice them. The reason why she wanted to go was because something would happen at that restaurant. Li Fan would come here by chance. The second woman he liked, of course, would become his woman later on. She just wanted to confirm if these women liked Li Fan willingly or if he used some other method to confuse them. If he used some method to confuse them, she wouldn't let Li Fan succeed. I'm bored to death during the holidays. At home, my mother is controlling everything. She doesn't allow me to eat these snacks at all. Her roommate Ran Jingdan said. Ran Jingdan was a long-legged, rich and beautiful woman. She was actually quite arrogant. At first, the original owner didn't think that such an arrogant girl like Ran Jingdan would be willing to share Li Fan with dozens of women. Another beautiful roommate was called Miao Han. She had a gentle personality and looked very elegant. As for the remaining one called Li Xiaoli, her appearance was slightly more ordinary. She also had a poor family background among them. Everyone still took care of her, so there were no conflicts. Tangwa silently ate with them. She deliberately chose a position where she could see the situation outside. Sure enough, after a while, she heard the sound of a beer bottle breaking on the ground, accompanied by a girl's scream. She glanced at the beautiful girl wearing an apron outside. This was the girl that Li Fan met by chance. She wasn't a student of the university, but an employee of this skewer shop. Outside the school, other than students, there were also some indecent people. Looking at Du Yumei, who had fair skin and a beautiful appearance, it was inevitable that he would be unruly after drinking 2 more mouthfuls. Du Yumei was helping to open the beer bottle when the big man grabbed her hand. She was so scared that she screamed. Tangwa glanced at Li Fan's position. Sure enough, she saw him walking over and pulling Du Yumei behind him. Without saying a word, he grabbed the collar of the burly man and turned him into a pig's head. In the end, the burly man and his men left behind some ruthless words. Brat, you just wait and see. Then, they hurriedly left. Naturally, Du Yumei was grateful and worshipful of Li Fan for escaping the calamity. Tangwa saw that Li Fan even called Du Yumei and said, if you have any problems in the future, you can call me. Then she saw Du Yumei blushing and nodding. She came back with the tray and carefully hid the phone number in her pocket. Heroes saving the damsel in distress would never go out of style. Tangwa, what are you looking at? Ran Jingdan also looked outside. Someone was causing trouble. It seems that the person sitting next to us chased them away, Tangwa replied. When Miao Han heard this, she frowned. She obviously did not like this kind of violence. Tangwa was amused when she saw this. At first, the two of them really looked down on Li Fan, thinking that he had no taste, was not handsome, and had a bunch of women. In the end, he was really fragrant. They didn't know what the reason was. Tangwa was no longer interested in Du Yumei. The easiest way for a woman to be infatuated with a man was to be a hero saving the damsel in distress. Peak. Chapter 2066. With Du Yumei's miserable background, relying on Li Fan was not strange at all. After eating, she planned to go back. Unexpectedly, she met Li Fan halfway and even came over to greet her. Of course, she continued to maintain a cold expression. When Li Fan asked her for her contact information, she still had no intention of giving it to him. Li Fan's expression changed slightly for a moment, but he quickly maintained his smile, as if he had no intention of pestering her. He turned around and went back with his roommates. Tangwa did not say anything, but Ran Jingdan opened her mouth. Really, anyone dares to pursue our families, Tangwa? Why don't you take a look at yourself in the mirror? That person is indeed not worthy of Tangwa. Miao Han said lightly. Just ignore this kind of person. He won't leave in 2 days. Yes, Tangwa is the daughter of the family Tang. The people chasing her are lining up to the opposite school. Li Xiaoli said, but her words sounded a little sour. Tangwa smiled faintly. For someone who is unmarried, they must keep a distance from the opposite sex. If I really gave him my contact information, how would I explain it to my fiancé? She knew that with Li Fan's hearing, he would definitely be able to hear the situation here. Sure enough, the system told her that Li Fan's expression was startled. The anger in his eyes had not completely faded. In the following time, Li Fan did not come over to create any coincidental encounters like in the original work. Tangwa finally calmed down a lot, but she knew that Li Fan was definitely not a well-behaved person. When she was shopping, she found Li Fan and Du Yumei, who was wearing a beautiful dress, walking together. Du Yumei even had a very beautiful rose in her hand. Seeing that the two of them were interested, she knew that the two of them were almost done. Seeing that Tanggua was not doing anything, the system could not hold it in anymore. Tanggua raised her eyebrows. What am I in a hurry for? Let him dance for a while. Don't tell me you want me to stop him from picking up girls? Du Yumei is willing, I don't want to go. Of course the system did not mean that. It just wanted to know how its host was going to deal with Li Fan. At present, Li Fan's performance was just a little unfaithful and greasy, but it seemed that there was nothing wrong with it. That's because he hasn't reached the peak yet. Just watch, it won't be long before he makes a name for himself. Let's wait until he's arrogant. Right now, he hasn't done anything. Let's see what he'll do next. If he didn't do anything bad, he wouldn't be able to find a reason. Moreover, she also wanted to see if those women could withstand Li Fan's sweet words. Forget about Du Yumei. With her miserable family situation, Li Fan was her savior. For example, the woman behind her was of high status. She really couldn't understand. Tanggua had been spending most of her time in the dormitory when she was not attending classes. Occasionally, she would receive calls from her fiancé, Zhang Xing. On weekends, she would ask him out for a meal. Once, she even met Li Fan. Li Fan was either with Du Yumei or Wu Shui. It seemed that he had no intention of harassing her. In less than 2 days, Tanggua saw Li Fan holding a book and acting cool at the entrance of the library. Then, a good-looking girl stood beside him and said in surprise, Li Fan, you can actually memorize a dream of the Red Chamber. Tanggua. Li Fan's golden finger was a system store. He could buy all kinds of mystical items from it. Right now, he was able to memorize a dream of the Red Chamber with his eyes closed because his consciousness was immersed in the system space and he was reading according to the book. To be able to enter this key university from an ordinary grade in a year, he didn't seem to study much. That was because he bought a college entrance exam paper from the system store and memorized the answers directly. He was also afraid of being suspected, so he didn't dare to go against all of them. In the beginning, Li Fan wasn't that high profile. Then Li Fan, can you memorize A Journey to the West? The girl's eyes lit up. If you can memorize A Journey to the West, I'll let you off today. Tanggua stood silently in the corner, watching Li Fan close his eyes and continue to recite A Journey to the West. Peak. Chapter 2067. Tanggua watched as Li Fan started to recite Journey to the West from the beginning. That girl stood at the side, holding the book and staring at it without blinking. Her eyes were shining. Looking at Li Fan, it was as if she had seen a peerless treasure. All right, I believe you. You really have a photographic memory. The girl excitedly closed the book and grabbed Li Fan's arm. Li Fan, since you have a photographic memory, then come with me to participate in the poetry conference. With your situation, as long as you can recite all the poems from ancient times to modern times, you will definitely be able to win the championship. Tanggua was enlightened. She was wondering why this girl would pull Li Fan to recite Dream of the Red Chamber and Journey to the West. So it was like this. In the plot, there was indeed a plot where Li Fan participated in the poetry conference. Otherwise, with Li Fan's current status, how could he come into contact with the superstar Gan Yingying? The special guest of the poetry conference was Gan Yingying. At that time, Li Fan had displayed his extraordinary ability and defeated all the scholars and professors from various big schools to win the championship. His extraordinary memory was worshipped by countless people. Other than participating in the poetry conference, he also participated in the idiom competition and history competition. In short, these kinds of competitions that relied on memory had Li Fan's figure. Wherever Li Fan appeared, he was invincible and no one could stop him. No matter how powerful you were, you could only be his stepping stone, a small cannon fodder to polish his rising life. The girl who pulled Li Fan was a sophomore from the Chinese department. She was in the same batch as her and was very beautiful. She was also one of the campus beauties. Her name was Su Shirling. She also had an identity that no one else knew. She was the daughter of the principal of this university. When Tanggua came back to her senses, how could Li Fan resist the pleading of such a beautiful girl? He agreed to participate in the poetry conference. Tangwa wasn't interested in seeing Li Fan flirt with girls. As long as the other party didn't force girls to follow him, it had nothing to do with her. How many women did he have? If he didn't capsize, that would be his ability. In less than 2 days, Tangwa heard her roommates discussing that this season's poetry conference would be held in their school. Tangwa was not interested in competing with Li Fan. Ran Jingdan and Li Xiaoli were both science students and were not interested in poetry. However, Miao Han, who looked quiet and had a gentle personality, was interested. She expressed that she wanted to give it a try. Miao Han would also write some poems. She was a standard artistic young woman. Since she was going to participate, as her roommate, Tangwa would definitely go and support her. After all, the original owner had a good relationship with her at this time. The registration time for the audition was set for Saturday. The 4 of them woke up early in the morning. Miao Han looked a little nervous. She only calmed down after a few words of encouragement. When they arrived at the scene, there were indeed many people present. Some of the families who lived nearby didn't go back either. It seemed like they wanted to watch the show or participate in the audition. If they were lucky, they might even be able to go on TV and meet the big stars in the finals. They didn't want to go on TV and gain some glory for themselves. Miao Han came early. With her cultural background and the deliberate preparation she had done yesterday, she passed the audition test and successfully registered. Li Fan and his group arrived late, and the judges had almost packed up their stalls. Originally, she wasn't very satisfied with Li Fan. Later, Su Shirling quickly said that Li Fan had a photographic memory. If she didn't believe it, she could test him. Vertex. Chapter 2068. Under Li Fan's outstanding performance, Tangwa realized that the judges were so excited that they almost caught Li Fan and sent him to the finals. Retentive memory. Just this ability alone was a gimmick. Li Fan also noticed Tangwa. With a smile on his lips, he walked in front of Tangwa. Senior Tang, are you also going to participate in the poetry competition? I'm not participating. My roommate is participating. Tangwa replied coldly, making Li Fan a little disappointed. Especially Tangwa's attitude towards him. It was really too cold. Ever since he came here, who didn't flatter him? As long as a woman knew of his ability, they would look at him with eyes full of worship. Li Fan thought that Tangwa looked down on him because she hadn't seen his ability. As for Tangwa's fiancé, he didn't care at all. He had seen the other party before and had inadvertently seen the way the 2 of them interacted. The 2 of them weren't close, and that person's appearance was indeed not bad, but he reeked of money. His engagement with Tangwa was most likely a family marriage. During this period of time, he had already investigated Tangwa and Zhang Xing's background. That's really a pity. If Senior Tang were to participate, we could still form a team. Li Fan was a little unwilling to accept Tangwa's attitude. They had known each other for so long, but he didn't even get a phone number. Li Fan, let's go eat. I'll treat you. This time, you have to do well for our team. Su Shirling didn't know if she felt it, but Li Fan was very special to Tangwa. In addition, there were 2 very beautiful girls beside Tangwa. She planned to pull Li Fan away. Li Fan's talent was discovered by her. She didn't allow others to see it. However, Ran Jingdan looked at the 2 of them being intimate and couldn't help but say, "Did you change girlfriends again?" At this time, Ran Jingdan still didn't seem to like Li Fan, which was why she said such poisonous words. She just couldn't get used to Li Fan acting like he was the most handsome man in the world and all the beautiful women would bow down to him. Seeing Su Shirling's appearance, how could she not understand that this was another little girl who was captivated by Li Fan? She couldn't help but expose her. Sure enough, Li Fan and Su Shirling's expressions changed. Su Shirling also immediately let go of Li Fan's arm. Her face was a little red, and she looked at Ran Jingdan angrily. As such, both sides had nothing more to say and left in different directions. From afar, Tangwa heard Su Shirling asking Li Fan in a low voice if he had a girlfriend. According to Ran Jingdan and Miao Han's thoughts, Li Fan should have thought of a way to cover it up. However, Li Fan actually said very frankly, "It's mine, I have a girlfriend." Tangwa couldn't help but turn around and look at Su Shirling's disappointed face. In the end, she didn't say anything. Li Fan changed the topic and soon made her happy again. Although that Li Fan is a bit of a playboy, he still has some ability. After returning to the dormitory, Miao Han couldn't help but say, I underestimated him before. He actually has the ability to remember everything. When speaking of this, Miao Han didn't seem to hate Li Fan as much as before. Tang Guo also finally understood how Miao Han became Li Fan's woman in the end. For a literary young girl, a man who could shine in the poetry competition was undoubtedly very attractive. So what? Isn't he still a playboy? I think Su Shiling has taken a fancy to him. Ran Jingdan said disdainfully. Peek. Chapter 2069. The dormitory discussed Su Shiling for a long time, but Tang Guo did not participate in it. She felt that Miao Han did not hate Li Fan as much as before. She even said that she wanted to compete with him to see if his photographic memory was real or fake. What if the judges drew a page of poetry that Li Fan knew was just a coincidence? Tang Guo rubbed her chin. After Li Fan became the champion of the poetry competition, he would start to meet all kinds of big shots and reveal all kinds of outstanding women. Then, his true legendary life would begin. He would also become more and more arrogant, thinking that there was no woman that he could not get. Even if he would not do anything to that woman directly, he would still attack her from the side, making that woman have no choice but to submit. Alright, then let him be at the poetry competition and let the other party become famous first. Only after experiencing the peak would one know how painful it would be to fall to the bottom. And those women who were willing to follow him, when he was down and out, how many of them would continue to follow him wholeheartedly? She would not do anything. She would just wait for Li Fan to provoke her and snatch away his cheat. At that time, Li Fan would already have some achievements. If he was smart, even if he did not have a cheat, it should not be a problem for him to gain a foothold in this world. After the system heard this, it clicked its tongue. Tang Guo thought for a moment. It was like this. That system store had everything. Its advantages were similar to Taobaa's, but the items inside were more abundant than Taobaa's. There were all kinds of strange things. In the plot, the reason why he and his women were able to maintain their youthful looks was because they had taken the eternal youth pills that were bought inside. Then let's wait for him to become famous and see what he will do. When the system heard this, it was happy. The host clearly knew that for an ordinary person like this who had received a treasure from the sky, without hard work, everything was just bubbles. At the beginning, they might be able to keep their mind clear. Later on, most of them would slowly lose themselves in wealth and women, losing themselves. Li Fan thought that he had the system store and could buy anything. He thought that he was invincible. Of course he would get whatever he wanted. He would not walk on the right path and would only go astray. Moreover, this was a stallion novel. It was written by a crooked person, and the direction was all arranged by the author behind the scenes. It was all about stallion invincible, refreshing, and accepting female types. It was definitely impossible to let Li Fan be a serious, civilized, and devoted protagonist. Tang Guo was not in a hurry at all. Generally speaking, there was no danger in this world, and there was nothing worth doing in a hurry. However, in order to prevent Tang Guo from running out of funds like in the script, she had already invested all of her pocket money into the stock market. By the time they needed it, it should have multiplied by many times. As for whether or not they would help Tang Guo overcome this crisis, that would depend on their attitude. Everyone had their own choice, didn't they? At this moment, a message popped up in the group. Tang Guo saw that it was a message from Wan Yawei. Vertex. Chapter 2070. Wan Yawei. Thank you for your help. I've completely recovered. I really didn't expect that in just 2 months, I would be able to recover to a better state than before. Everyone could see that Wan Yawei was very emotional. If anyone could see her, they would see that she was about to cry. The past few months had been like going from heaven to hell and back again. It was amazing. Tang Guo, what are you going to do next? Recovering from his injuries in just 2 months would easily arouse suspicion. Wan Yawei. I'm now in a private dermatology hospital abroad. After receiving the beauty pill from Ziyun, I asked about the treatment. If the news of me returning to the entertainment industry after recovering in 2 months is spread, it will definitely cause a huge uproar. It will also remind the mastermind that they can harm me again. At that time, we were filming in the forest. It was summer, and the mastermind was too clean. The police haven't found anything yet. They don't even have a suspect. The forest is not like the city. There are no surveillance cameras at all. Tanghua, you're right. If you go out like this, your abnormality will not only arouse suspicion, but you will also be targeted by the mastermind. If such a magical secret is discovered, you will definitely be caught and dissected by the unscrupulous laboratory. Wan Yawei. So, after receiving the beauty pill from Ziyun and your gift, I booked a plane ticket to go abroad on the same day. I've contacted a private dermatology hospital and paid them a lot of money to treat me. I'm secretly taking the beauty pill. Even if I recover now, the outside world won't suspect anything. I thought about it and decided to stay here for half a year. I haven't had a rest in a long time. I can rest for a while and recharge my energy before going back. After this incident, Wan Yawei was not afraid that the entertainment industry would abandon her. As long as her face recovered, it would cause a sensation. She didn't have any scandals. Because if she recovered, she would definitely be offered a lot of endorsements. Tanghua was relieved to hear Wan Yawei's plan. She didn't reveal that she and Wan Yawei were in the same world. When she exited the group and checked Weibo, she found that Wan Yawei was on the hot search list. Hashtag Wan Yawei secretly went abroad for treatment. Hashtag after Wan Yawei's fans found out about it, they all left messages on her Weibo page, wishing her a speedy return. Tanghua then realized that Wan Yawei had posted on Weibo, telling everyone that she was receiving treatment abroad and asking her fans to wait for her return. That Weibo post sent her fans into a frenzy that very day and sent her to the top of the search rankings. Then, she saw another trending topic, which was currently ranked second. Hashtag Gone Ingying joins the poetry contest. Hashtag Tanghua rested her chin on her hand and smiled. She didn't think much about it. However, she was looking forward to the meeting between Gone Ingying and Li Fan. Miao Han, you must work hard to enter the finals. Miao Han was flattered by Tanghua's sudden encouragement. She quickly replied that she would do her best. Every division would compete for 3 spots to participate in the finals. With so many people signing up today, Miao Han would have to put in a lot of effort if she wanted to enter the top 3. This was also what piqued Miao Han's interest. From that day onwards, she had been battling with CIC every day. How would she know that the reason why Tanghua encouraged her was because she wanted to be part of her family and friends and go to the finals to watch Li Fan and Gone Ingying? System, very bad. Chapter 2071. The system suddenly remembered, where's this world's host's big cutie? He shouldn't be absent, right? When Tanghua heard the system's words, her tone was very calm, otherwise, his previous life's wish would have been in vain. System, I feel a little sad for that guy, what's going on? In the following period of time, many things happened. Under the witness of the system and Tanghua, Du Yumei willingly became his woman. After Li Fan opened his company, he let Du Yumei quit her job at the skewer shop and let her be his company's secretary. During this period of time, Li Fan relied on the system store to pick up a few down-and-out talents. Not only did he provide funds, but he also offered generous conditions and successfully opened his company, becoming a big boss. He bought a business plan from the system store and threw it to these people. He was just a shopkeeper who didn't do anything. In any case, he wasn't lacking in money. What he lacked was social status. For the time being, he couldn't enter the upper circle. Du Yumei became Li Fan's woman. This matter definitely couldn't be hidden from his first love, Wu Shui. After all, Wu Shui was a student from the music academy next door. After Wu Shui found out, she was angry for a few days. Du Yumei also went to apologize to her and Li Fan went to coax her every day. In any case, after all kinds of entanglement, the two of them also found that Li Fan was surrounded by many women. They immediately understood that such an outstanding man like Li Fan couldn't be owned by only one of them. Wu Shui accepted Du Yumei and the two of them called each other sisters. Li Fan even said sweet nothings to Wu Shui, saying that she would always be his first wife and that he would marry her in the future. Wu Shui was actually very happy. Sometimes, she and Du Yumei would even live in the same room as Li Fan. According to what Tanghua knew, the women who had an ambiguous relationship with Li Fan, other than the two that he had already taken in, were the principal's daughter, Su Shiling, and his tutor, Shi Yun Nua. Although Shi Yun Nua was very angry with Li Fan every time, she didn't reject Li Fan's approach. What made Tangwa the most inconceivable was that Shi Yun Nua had a boyfriend. Then, because of a student's teasing, she didn't report him for harassment. Instead, she blushed and felt ashamed. She didn't understand. The system also didn't understand. It was too greasy. While Li Fan was flirting with girls, the poetry competition at the division had also begun. As Miao Han's roommate, Tangwa would definitely be there to support her. Miao Han had always been interested in these things. Coupled with her cramming, she performed very well in the division competition and finally got 3rd place. The 2nd place was from the school next door. Su Shirling was 4th, and Li Fan was 1st. After the competition ended, Tangwa realized that something was wrong with Miao Han. He would often mention Li Fan, saying how powerful he was. Ran Jingdan even vomited at Tangwa and belittled Li Fan a few times. In the end, she quarreled with Miao Han. What's so good about that lecherous guy? Didn't you see 2 women holding his arm while he was shopping? Who doesn't know that they're in that kind of relationship? Miao Han, no matter what, Li Fan is indeed a very talented person. I can tell that he didn't memorize it by rote. He analyzed every single poem thoroughly. This time in the division competition, it was expected that he would be able to become the champion. Moreover, I have a premonition that he will be able to become the overall champion. I also heard that he wasn't just having an ambiguous relationship with 2 girls. Tangwa interrupted. You wouldn't have taken a fancy to him, right? Peek. Chapter 2072. How is that possible? Miao Han's voice became softer. All right, I'm going to continue reading. Let's not talk about this. System, Tangwa replied plainly, yeah. Ran Jingdan was still angry with Miao Han and felt extremely uncomfortable. She pulled Tangwa to the library. Because of the craze of the poetry competition, there were more people reading. When they arrived, there was only 1 table left, but there was already someone sitting there. The other seats were not occupied, so Ran Jingdan chose a book and sat in front of him. The moment she sat down, Ran Jingdan felt that something was wrong. The male classmate who was sitting opposite her subconsciously moved the book in front of him, and he also moved towards the window without a trace. When Tangwa walked over, she saw that there were a few books beside Ran Jingdan. She had no choice but to sit beside the male classmate. Once she sat down, it was serious. She felt that the male classmate beside her coughed softly. She subconsciously looked over and saw that there was a red rash on his face. Was he sick? She tried asking, classmate, are you feeling unwell? Do you want to go to the infirmary? Taking a closer look, this male classmate was quite good-looking. It was just that his skin was unhealthily fair, and there were more and more red rashes on his neck and cheeks. In such a situation, Tangwa couldn't ignore it. I'll send you to the infirmary. The male classmate's cold gaze landed on Tangwa. His voice was a little cold. No need, just stay away from me. Stay away from him? If not for the fact that he did not look well, Ran Jingdan would have jumped up. Stay away from him? These words of obvious disdain were really infuriating. When Tangwa heard this, she retracted her hand that was about to touch him and moved a little further away. Is this okay? A little further, the male classmate said coldly. Tangwa moved a little further away. How about this? Not enough. Tangwa realized that she had moved a little and saw that Ran Jingdan was sitting opposite him. She said softly, Ran Jingdan, sit opposite me. Although Ran Jingdan was unhappy, she seemed to have understood something. She hugged her book and sat opposite Tangwa. Then, Tangwa realized that the rashes on the male classmate's face had disappeared. His pale face also gradually regained its redness. She and Ran Jingdan looked at each other, fully feeling the unfriendliness of this world. System, maybe it's a kind of illness, phobia. Tangwa guessed because she had encountered this illness in the world she had traveled to. Usually, this kind of illness was rooted in the heart. The system's considerate reminder. It was not easy to cure for this kind of mental illness. Seeing the host and her roommate move to the edge reading the book. There are no other seats in the library, so let's just sit here. It's so far away, so it shouldn't affect him. The system, was this not right? He carefully observed the male classmate who was wearing a shirt and had his head buried in his book with a cold expression. No, he just told me to stay away. Tangwa suspected that her Tongzi had received benefits from the guy opposite her. However, in this kind of situation, she really would not leave. Fine, if there was no mistake in principle, she would be the one to send some warmth to that guy in this world. Chapter 2073. Tangwa observed the guy for a while. When she saw that the rash on his face and neck had subsided, she then focused on reading. Fu Yenji saw the way she was sizing him up, and his lips pursed into a straight line. His expression was very cold, or rather, his entire being was very cold. When he saw that Tangwa was no longer sizing him up and had no intention of getting close to him, he also looked at the book. Ran Jingdan did not pay much attention to this. She had quarreled with Miao Han earlier and was unhappy. She wanted to read some books to distract herself. As for that sick guy, she did not want to know what he was doing at all when she thought of his disdainful gaze. Tangwa did not pay attention to what Fu Yenji was doing. However, when Fu Yenji was in the middle, he could not help but look at the girl sitting far away from him. Fu Yenji lowered his head, feeling very puzzled. If he could, he did not want to treat his mental illness. He had tried all kinds of methods over the years, but there was no cure. Whenever the opposite sex got too close to him, his face would turn pale and a scary rash would appear on his neck and face. This was something he could not control. These special reactions seemed to be warning others that he was a person who did not want strangers to get close to him. Of course, he did not think that there was anything wrong with this. At least it could prevent the opposite sex from getting close to him. The bad thing was that once the opposite sex deliberately got close to him, it would cause his body pain. Today, he came to the library because he wanted some peace and quiet. He did not ask anyone to follow him. The people who came to the library often knew him and his situation. Basically, they would not choose to sit beside him. These two girls did not come to the library often, so it was not strange that they sat directly on the seats. However, his attention was attracted by a girl. It was a little unbelievable. It's no use sneaking glances. He can't get close to me. Tangwa's voice was a little gloating. The system was speechless. There is still a way. As long as we find the cause and overcome the psychological fear, it will be fine. However, I am not familiar with him. I can't just rush over and say, "Hey, you are sick. I can treat you. Will you listen to me now?" The system thought about it and agreed. This young man was not simple at all. He exuded the aura of a rich young master. It was clear that the other party's identity was extraordinary. It was impossible for him to do anything rashly. Take it slow. There will always be a chance. Moreover, I think he is a very restrained person. Just now, when Ran Jingdan and I were so close, he didn't directly scold or get angry. It can be seen that his temper is not bad. Logically speaking, such a person shouldn't have such a strange mental illness. Tangwa didn't know the truth, and she didn't intend to get close to him. The fact that they were able to meet each other meant that there was some fate between them. In that case, it would only be natural for them to meet a few more times. There was bound to be a chance for their relationship to progress further. Moreover, she had a fiancé now. For the sake of the reputation of both families, she couldn't do something that would embarrass them. Therefore, it was better to settle the matter between the families. When she was free, it would be easy for her to do whatever she wanted. As for this guy, he shouldn't be in any danger. X767E, and X9540, and X4E00, and X4E0B, and X201C, quick crossover. Female supporting character, calm down, and X722A, and X4E66, and X5C4B, and X201D, and X6700, and X65B0, and X7AE0, and X8282, and X7B2C, and X4E00, and X65F6, and X95F4, and X514D, and X8D39, and X9605, and X8BFB, and X3002, and X3002, Vertex. Chapter 2074. For a few days, Tangwa went to the library, but she was always late. As expected, she met Fu Yenji, who was occupying the table. She didn't greet him and just chose a seat at the side. Fu Yenji only raised his head to look at her and didn't have any strange reaction. Then, he lowered his head and continued. Tangwa didn't plan to get close to Fu Yenji. She mainly came to get familiar with him. System. Actually, he didn't believe it. But he couldn't guess what the host was thinking. After about 2 weeks, the finals of the poetry competition started. Tangwa naturally couldn't go to the library. Everyone in the dormitory went to the finals as Miao Han's relatives and friends. This time, it was broadcasted on TV. Tangwa and the other two were fine, but Miao Han, who was going to stand on the stage to compete, was extremely nervous. During her trip to the finals, Tangwa discovered something very interesting. It was Li Fan's group of relatives and friends. Other than his roommates and some friends of the same sex, there were also very beautiful girls. 2 of them were his women, Wu Shui and Du Yumei. There was also the counselor, Shi Yunhua, and the principal's daughter, Su Shiling. The remaining few beautiful girls were unfamiliar faces. Tangwa didn't recognize them. But looking at them working hard to cheer for Li Fan and looking at the scene of Li Fan and his 2 girlfriends showing off their love with envy, she understood. Li Fan's charm was so great. Was it worth it for them to be so dead set on him? Tangwa also found something. Du Yumei was much more beautiful than before. Her skin was fairer and very smooth. Almost no pores could be seen. She was like a porcelain doll. At this moment she finally understood. Li Fan must have given Du Yumei something like the beauty pill. Looking at Wu Shui again, it was the same. Her skin was so perfect that it didn't look like a real person. The other girls were also goddesses, but they couldn't be compared to the 2 of them. Li Fan seemed to feel Tang was sizing him up. He smiled. Senior Tang, why do you keep looking at me? Is there a flower on my face? Without waiting for Tangwa to say anything, the other girls actually started to tease him. They asked if Tangwa had taken a fancy to Li Fan. They even said that Li Fan, you already have such beautiful women like Wu Shui and Du Yumei. Why do you still want to provoke Tangwa? Tangwa was surprised to find that the people in the carriage did not seem to be surprised by all this. They were not surprised that Li Fan had 2 girlfriends at the same time. It was as if Li Fan should have 2 girlfriends. However, she noticed something different. Ran Jingdan, who was sitting beside her, didn't look good. Seeing that the others were teasing Tangwa and Li Fan, she mocked. Tangwa already has a fiancé, you guys should stop joking. Towards Li Fan, she was becoming more and more disgusted. Why would such a greasy man be liked by so many women? Was the heavens blind? Ran Jingdan seems to hate Li Fan. With such an attitude, how did she become Li Fan's woman? Tangwa communicated with the system. She was so bad-tempered and arrogant. She really didn't look like someone who would give in to a man. The system couldn't answer. After all, the details of Li Fan accepting a woman weren't written in detail. Usually, this kind of emotional drama was very awkward. The woman that the male lead met, even if he didn't take her into his harem, would have to be alone for the rest of his life. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to recognize Mount Tai and would have a bad life. X767E, and X9540, and X4E00, and X4E0B, and X201C, quick crossover. Female supporting character, calm down, and X722A, and X4E66, and X5C4B, and X201D, and X6700, and X65B0, and X7AE0, and X8282, and X7B2C, and X4E00, and X65F6, and X95F4, and X514D, and X8D39, and X9605, and X8BFB, and X3002, and X3002, peak. Chapter 2075. Along the way to the venue of the finals, Tangwa was sizing up the few women who had a special relationship with Li Fan. In the car, Li Fan even showed them his photographic memory. These exciting behind-the-scenes scenes might also be broadcasted when the time came. Seeing these women looking at Li Fan with eyes full of worship, Tangwa finally took out her sunglasses and put them on, intending to rest. She and the system had already observed carefully. Li Fan really didn't give any mental hints to these women. They were willing to follow him. Then, it was none of her business. Why is he so showy? Ran Jingdan whispered to Tang Gua. The two of them sat together, so it was convenient for them to communicate in a low voice. He really destroyed his 3 views. Why doesn't he go to the heavens? Tang Gua really wanted to say that Li Fan could really go to the heavens. Some of the things in his system store could be taken out and used, while some could not be taken out. If he wanted to go to the heavens, it was easy to buy some special items. It had to be said that this was a very good cheat. Ran Jingdan didn't understand. Li Fan had the aura of a main character. He, the main character, was controlled by the author behind him. It was estimated that a character like the original owner was used to polish the main character and set off the role of the girls who chose him. If they chose him, they would be able to stay young and beautiful forever. If they didn't choose him, they could only be poor for the rest of their lives and slowly grow old. The people who participated in the finals were the top 3 of many divisions. Therefore, it still had to be recorded in several episodes. Tang Gua and her other 2 roommates naturally sat in the audience seats. In the finals, she also saw Gan Yingying sitting in the special guest seat. Gan Yingying was dressed very sexily. She had long wavy hair and fiery red lips. She was the kind that could make people dizzy when she blinked at the camera. She also noticed that the way Li Fan looked at Gan Yingying was different. One day, she was in the ladies' room when she suddenly heard some movement. Listening carefully, it was actually Gan Yingying and Li Fan talking. Gan Yingying's voice was delicate and soft, and every word was filled with endless temptation. Tang Gua guessed that the scene between the two of them was filled with all kinds of ambiguity. She didn't know when the two of them hooked up. In the finals, Li Fan shone brightly. This program was being recorded and broadcasted at the same time. Not long after, Li Fan became famous. His opponents were talented students from various schools, experts who specialized in poetry, and some professors. In any case, this was a program open to all ages. As long as you liked poetry you could come. But no matter who it was, once they met Li Fan, there was only one fate: defeat. Until the last episode, Li Fan had gained countless fans. No one doubted that he had won the championship, and the result was the same. As for Miao Han, she was eliminated midway. Since Miao Han had been eliminated, Tang Gua's roommates naturally wouldn't follow her to the finals. However, she had always been paying attention to Li Fan's news. She would go to the library whenever she had no classes and the place would always be packed with people. Fu Yanji was still there. To be honest, Fu Yanji was not used to Tang Gua's absence for the past few days. After all, no one in the entire library would sit beside him except for Tang Gua. This kind of feeling was a little strange. So when Tang Gua returned, he raised his head and asked unexpectedly, "Why haven't you come to the library recently?" System. Are you so unreserved? X767E, and X9540, and X4E00, and X4E0B, and X201C. Quick crossover. Female supporting character, Calm Down, and X722A, and X4E66, and X5C4B, and X201D, and X6700, and X65B0, and X7AE0, and X8282, and X7B2C, and X4E00, and X65F6, and X95F4, and X514D, and X8D39, and X9605, and X8BFB, and X3002, and X3002, peak. Chapter 2076. When Tang Gua heard Fu Yanji's words, she almost laughed out loud. He really wasn't reserved at all. Fu Yanji seemed to have realized that his question was a little abrupt. After all, they were only sitting at the same table and she was far away. She didn't know their names and didn't introduce them to each other. They weren't friends or classmates. At most they were schoolmates. Tang Gua subconsciously looked at Fu Yanji's ears. Indeed, they were a little red. She resisted the urge to laugh out loud and said, "I accompanied my roommate to participate in the poetry conference." Fu Yanji replied faintly and didn't say anything else. He was really cold and noble. The system felt that soon, this guy would abandon some principles and reserve and shamelessly want to stay by the host's side. Due to Fu Yanji's problem, Tang Guo didn't purposely get too close to him to avoid causing trouble for him. As for how to treat his mental illness, she wasn't anxious at all. Anyway, the two of them were familiar with each other. There would always be a chance in the future. After a while, Fu Yanji spoke. You didn't participate in the poetry conference? Fu Yanji was holding his phone. The system then told Tang Guo that Fu Yanji was actually searching for the program of the poetry conference. It seemed like he was planning to look for Tang Guo on it. When Tang Guo heard this, she didn't know what to say. I'm not interested in that. Moreover, there was someone who had a photographic memory. Photographic memory? Fu Yanji swiped his phone for a while and quickly understood who the person with a photographic memory was. When he looked at those photos, his gaze was especially subtle. Li Fan was surrounded by beautiful women, and a few of them looked very intimate with him. He wasn't jealous of Li Fan. Instead, he felt that being surrounded by so many women, wouldn't Li Fan feel uncomfortable? Actually, he didn't know why he had such a huge reaction to the opposite sex. Every time a member of the opposite sex came into contact with him, it would cause him to feel cold all over. His face would turn pale and he would even have some scary red rashes. His family didn't tell him, but through his own secret investigation, he realized that there was a blank memory of his childhood. He suspected that the answer should be in this blank memory. Of course, he wasn't that anxious to find the answer. His intuition told him that it was not a good thing. He did not have much interest in interacting with the opposite sex. After this short chat, Tang Guo and Fu Yanji finally got to know each other. One day, the system told Tang Guo about this matter. After asking, she found out that Gan Yingying had encountered something and had no choice but to call Li Fan. Naturally, Li Fan, the male lead, couldn't wait to be the hero and save the beauty. Then he would send the superstar, Gan Yingying, home. What else could happen between a single man and a single woman? Smoothly, Gan Yingying became Li Fan's woman. As for Li Fan's company, because he had picked up a few very good business talents, in addition to the business plan that he had taken out, and some very advanced technological products. The company was getting bigger and bigger, and it had attracted the attention of many people. During this period, Tang Guo witnessed Li Fan being looked down upon by many people, and then he slapped their faces back one by one. There were also many people who coveted his company's products, but in the end, they went for wool and came home shorn. Other than Gan Yingying, the number of women by Li Fan's side had been increasing. X767E, and X9540, and X4E00, and X4E0B, and X201C, quick crossover. Female supporting character, calm down, and X722A, and X4E66, and X5C4B, and X201D, and X6700, and X65B0, and X7AE0, and X8282, and X7B2C, and X4E00, and X65F6, and X95F4, and X514D, and X8D39, and X9605, and X8BFB, and X3002, and X3002, peak. Chapter 2077. But for the main female characters, such as Su Shirling, the progress was relatively slow. Actually, that was right. After all, this kind of female character with more ink would definitely not be easily obtained. Li Fan and the other women did not know about Gan Yingying's existence for the time being. However, not knowing for the time being did not mean that they would not know in the future. One time when they were eating outside, Tang Guo met Li Fan again and heard them discussing the big star Gan Yingying. Not only was Gan Yingying's acting skills not bad, her singing was also good. In fact, she had debuted as a singer. This time, what was being discussed was that Gan Yingying was planning to hold a concert. An Li Fan's girlfriend, Wu Shui, was a fan of Gan Yingying. She was discussing with Du Yumei and especially wanted to see Gan Yingying's concert. Li Fan promised her that he would help her get the tickets when the time came, which naturally made Wu Shui very happy. Tang Guo watched the development of this plot and felt very helpless. Although Li Fan was getting more and more arrogant, he had not done anything out of line until now. Most of the time, it was because someone provoked him that he retorted back. But she felt that Li Fan would get arrogant sooner or later. Li Fan did bring Wu Shui and Du Yumei to see Gan Yingying's concert later on. The two of them also knew about his relationship with Gan Yingying. Although they were a little sad at first, they had long accepted this result and got along well in the end. Gan Ingying would often secretly come to the house that Li Fan bought outside the school. In any case, outsiders did not know what the three women and a man would do inside. Su Shirling also knew where they lived. One time, she happened to bump into Gan Ingying kissing Li Fan at the door. Then, she got angry and quarreled with Li Fan, saying that he was so fickle. How could he be worthy of Du Yumei and Wu Shui? She angrily scolded him for being a playboy. Then, Wu Shui and Du Yumei both expressed that Li Fan was very outstanding. They already knew about it and did not mind Gan Ingying's appearance at all. They all knew that Su Shirling liked Li Fan and even advised her that if she liked Li Fan, she could also stay by his side. They did not mind. Such an outstanding Li Fan was worthy of the love of many women. When Tanghua heard the system's narration, she looked at the food in front of her and did not want to eat anymore. What happened after that? Tanghua replied indifferently. Oh, so it's like that? Is there a follow-up? Remember to let me know if there's anything else. Tanghua didn't have to wait for long. Su Shirling's father, who was the principal of this school, was actually the CEO of a company. Knowing that his daughter was unhappy, he used the power in his hands to pressure Li Fan, but in the end, he was beaten back by Li Fan one by one. In the end, he had no choice but to talk to Li Fan face to face. He expressed that if Li Fan was willing to only be with his daughter, he would not care about what happened before. But Li Fan was the main character. How could he be threatened by others? On the spot, he said that if the other party dared to touch his woman and the people around him, he would teach him a lesson. This made the other party very angry. The two of them competed with each other for a long time. Gradually, Su Shirling's father began to admire Li Fan. Especially after knowing that he was the CEO behind that technology company. His attitude changed greatly. X767E, and X9540, and X4E00, and X4E0B, and X201C, quick crossover. Female supporting character, calm down, and X722A, and X4E66, and X5C4B, and X201D, and X6700, and X65B0, and X7AE0, and X8282, and X7B2C, and X4E00, and X65F6, and X95F4, and X514D, and X8D39, and X9605, and X8BFB, and X3002, and X3002, peak. Chapter 2078. Later, when Tanghua saw Su Shirling and Li Fan again, the two of them were holding hands intimately. Obviously, Su Shirling had also accepted the fact that Li Fan had many women. Li Fan's reputation became more and more prominent. From the beginning, he was famous throughout the school. To the end, everyone knew about him. His company was also getting bigger and bigger. It even involved the entertainment industry. Although it was just the beginning. It only took him half a year to do all of this. During this period, Wan Yawei also came back. Wan Yawei's comeback also caused a sensation. Everyone thought that Wan Yawei would make a big move. They didn't expect that she would actually choose to act in a down-to-earth way and didn't take on any endorsements. It seemed that she was planning to walk the path of an actor and not the path of a big star. As soon as she came back, she plunged into the crew to film. After Tanghua found out, she thought that Wan Yawei was indeed very smart. The other party should have smelled something. With Li Fan helping from behind, Gan Ingying was like the sun in the sky in the entertainment industry. Li Fan's company involved in the entertainment industry was very willing to spend money. Whatever role Gan Ingying wanted, he would let people snatch it away by any means. For a moment, everyone understood that Gan Ingying had a financial backer behind her. During this period, Li Fan's counselor, Shi Yunhua, also fell into his hands. Shi Yunhua and her ex-fiancé's breakup was not pleasant. In order to avoid future troubles, Li Fan directly dealt with Shi Yunhua's ex-fiancé's family and made them bankrupt. When Shi Yunhua agreed to be engaged to the other party, it was indeed not because she liked him, but because there was a problem with her family and the other party liked her very much. The family members discussed whether or not she should go to the other party, agree to his pursuit, get engaged, and then help solve the family's crisis. At that time, Shi Yunhua didn't like anyone and thought that she was doing this to repay the family. When she met Li Fan, she regretted it very much and especially liked being able to cancel the engagement. That person liked her very much. How could he agree? Later on, when he found out that she had fallen in love with someone else, how could he not be angry? It's finally time for me to make a move, Tangwa said with a smile. After the end of the day's class, she let the system find the whereabouts of Shi Yunhua's ex-fiancé. Although he was bankrupt, in fact, people who were born in such a family would live a more comfortable life than ordinary people. Tangwa found him in a bar. At that time, Yan Huan was sitting in the corner, drinking glass after glass of wine. Should he say that he didn't regret it? Of course, he regretted it. He shouldn't have let his emotions affect his decisions for a woman and implicate his entire family. This was the last thing he regretted. Tangwa also felt that what Shi Yunhua did was unkind. She was the one who volunteered to find Yan Huan to help solve the family's problems. She knew that the other party liked her, so she could use such a method to get the other party to give her a large sum of money. Now, she regretted it. How could she understand him so easily by breaking up with him? In the end, she even caused him to go bankrupt. Punish evil and promote good. Tangwa pursed her lips and smiled. The system did not believe her, so she changed her words and said, "Okay, I'm going to kill someone with a borrowed knife." System, that's right, that's the great host he's familiar with. Yan Huan also noticed the woman sitting beside him. He was dressed properly, and his temperament was out of place in this bar. What's up? She didn't seem like she was here to hang out at the bar. She seemed like she was here to look for him. No matter what, Yan Huan was someone who had managed a company before. It was basic for him to be observant. Yes, Tangwa replied. Do you want to make a comeback? Make a comeback? Yan Huan put down his wine glass and paused for a moment before saying, Do you know who I offended? I can't afford to offend him now. He won't let me make a comeback. X767E, and X9540, and X4E00, and X4E0B, and X201C. Quick crossover. Female supporting character, Calm Down, and X722A, and X4E66, and X5C4B, and X201D, and X6700, and X65B0, and X7AE0, and X8282, and X7B2C, and X4E00, and X65F6, and X95F4, and X514D, and X8D39, and X9605, and X8BFB, and X3002, and X3002, peak. Chapter 2079. With such a large sum of money, aren't you afraid that I'll leave and not return to China in the future? Yan Huan really didn't understand why Tangwa would choose him and give him a card without saying a word. There was a large sum of money in it, enough for him to make a comeback. I dare to give it to you, but I'm not afraid that you'll run away. The fact that I can give you so much so easily means that this money is just a string of numbers to me. Yan Huan sized up the girl sitting beside him. She was very young and, of course, very beautiful. He didn't think too much. Because when the other party placed this card in front of him so easily, it made him unable to think of anything. He felt a kind of courage from this young girl. His intuition told him that he should agree to her conditions and take this card abroad to make a comeback. He himself had not fallen to the point of being poor, but he had no way to come up with the funds to stand up again. This card was the card for the country she asked him to go to. He didn't know how she transferred out such a large sum of money. System. Are you stupid? Do you need to transfer it out? Just buy their shares on the internet in that country. Of course, most people wouldn't believe it. Okay, I agree to your conditions. Yan Huan reached out and picked up the thin card and put it in his pocket. He smiled. Miss Tang trusts me so much that you didn't hesitate to invest a huge sum of money. Then I won't let you down. But I'm curious, why are you helping me? If it wasn't for the fact that he was really unwilling and holding back his breath, Yan Huan wouldn't have agreed to such a thing so easily. It should be said that if it wasn't for the fact that he was desperate, he wouldn't believe that a pie would fall from the sky and fall on his head. I see that you have a good physique. You must be a little expert at making money, so I chose you. Tangwa picked up the wine glass and took a sip of wine. She turned around and left, but what she said stunned Yan Huan. He stared at her back in a daze and didn't come back to his senses for a long time. Looking at his physique, he was a little expert at making money? Yan Huan laughed and gulped down the wine in his glass. He took his coat and walked out of the bar. Well, then he would be a little expert at making money in the future. This was the first time he was valued so highly by someone. He couldn't let his boss down, right? Li Fan mainly wanted to restrict Yan Huan from rising again in the country. As for the other party going abroad to do things, Li Fan didn't think too much about it. He also didn't think that under his suppression, there was anyone who could make Yan Huan stand up again. He was very busy now. He was busy dealing with his women and pursuing new women. His company had always been managed by the group of capable people under him. If there were any problems, he would buy a perfect solution from the system store. As for the funds, he had so many people under him, so he didn't think that there would be any problems. Otherwise, the business plans and proposals that he had taken out would have been for nothing. Li Fan's company was becoming more and more famous, especially in the field of high-tech products. Many people already knew about it. Although the people in the outside world did not know about Li Fan, his company and his company's products were already used by many people. As for the people of high society, they were also very afraid of the company under Li Fan's name. No matter what happened, the people who attended the banquet were all managers of the company. Li Fan basically didn't show his face. Therefore, many people were guessing who the person behind the new company was. Li Fan's days were very comfortable, and there were more and more women. But this didn't stop him from getting to know new women. One day, Tang Gua was in the dormitory and found Miao Han running into the dormitory with a flushed face. Peek. Chapter 2080. Why is your face so red? Tang Gua couldn't help but ask when she saw Miao Han sitting on the chair, looking at her phone with a smile on her face and the blush on her face. Miao Han seemed to have been discovered. She quickly looked up at Tang Gua and said, "It's nothing, just a little hot." Tang Gua silently touched the thick down jacket on her body. Was the weather hot? Even if she went out for a run, her face wouldn't be so red unless she stayed in the house for a long time and lacked oxygen. Moreover, Miao Han had been holding her phone and smiling sweetly. Even a ghost would know that she was in love. "You have a boyfriend, right?" Ran Jingdan teased. "Miao Han, do you think you've made a friend? If there's a chance, bring him out and have a meal together." Miao Han's face turned even redder. She seemed to have thought of something and quickly shook her head. "Not yet, it's not that fast. Forget about the meal, we'll talk about it later." After that day, Miao Han often didn't play with them. She always used the excuse that she had something to do. Everyone knew about such an obvious behavior and didn't make things difficult for her. Until one day, Li Fan personally sent Miao Han to the door of the girls' dormitory and was coincidentally seen by a few people. At that time, their gazes were all strange and Miao Han was also a little embarrassed. Li Fan didn't seem to mind being looked at like this. He only reminded Miao Han a few words and said that he would pick her up the next day. He even had a smile on his lips that he thought was very handsome. He greeted Tang Gua and Ran Jingdan and turned to leave. This time, Miao Han's neck was about to shrink into her stomach. Ran Jingdan couldn't hold it in anymore. After Li Fan left, she asked, "Your boyfriend is him?" Miao Han saw that she couldn't hide it anymore and admitted it. Ran Jingdan was a little angry. "He broke up with another woman?" "No." Miao Han replied. "Then why are you still with him?" Ran Jingdan's eyes widened. She couldn't believe it. How many women were around Li Fan? However, everyone didn't find it strange and even thought that it was natural. That guy was super flamboyant and often brought his women around. She didn't recognize this world anymore. "So, you're willing to share him with other women?" Tang Gua threw the milk tea in her hand into the trash can. She didn't want to waste it, but she had lost her appetite. Miao Han said seriously, "He's so outstanding, so it's natural that there would be many women around him. After living for so many years, I've never met anyone more outstanding than him." Well, Tang Gua didn't say anything. He didn't know what kind of bewitching potion Li Fan had fed Miao Han to actually brainwash her to such an extent. The system did a scan just now. Miao Han was indeed very sober when she said these words. Li Fan did not do anything to her. If Li Fan had really used a special method, he would have done something to her long ago. Recalling that this was a world, Tanghua was no longer surprised. This was her worldview. Ran Jingdan was so angry that she didn't want to talk to Miao Han anymore. Her relationship with Miao Han had always been good. She went back to the dormitory and tried to persuade Miao Han again. In the end, she decided to ignore her. A few days later, they saw Miao Han packing up some daily necessities. After asking, they found out that she was planning to move out. Li Fan bought a villa outside, and the people living there are all his women. The system secretly reported to Tanghua. Other than the few that the host knows, there are also a few unfamiliar faces. I don't know where he got them from. Tanghua. Then he's really awesome. Peaked, you're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.